I really don't feel like it's a good idea to set a precedent of using genocide as a solution. I mean, it's...
Hello everybody, and welcome back
Welcome.
to the Dopecast. Andersen, you should do the intro this time. I've done it every time so far.
Yes, massa. With us today, me, Sir Andersen, our lovable Dopefish, and our special guest this week, FlippinKamikaze. Hello,
Hi
Flippin.
guys, how's everybody doing?
They can't answer you.
I know, but
I think he's
Why did
asking
you
us.
I was asking you too as well, I guess. Oh
Yeah.
god, the spaghetti. Every time I start a stream, a podcast, it's just a requirement for me, isn't it?
That's just how it works.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine, except it is so fucking hot.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine, except it's so fucking hot.
I'm doing fine except for the fact that my air conditioner is off, but it's not so bad over here. But that's
I
just
don't even
me.
have air conditioner, or I don't even have an air conditioner. It's
So-
not
How
a
do you
thing here.
live? How do you
We don't get that hot summers. It's
We
not
don't
like
live
a
in
common
Satan's
thing.
butthole.
Oh,
Yeah.
touche.
We live in the north.
Yeah, where you have heated floors. That blew my mind. I remember reading that in chat and just like, how is that a thing? I want that to be a thing.
Come inside on a truly frozen day, just take all your clothes off and lie on a heated floor. Oh.
I
Or
could
just be Finnish and go into a sauna.
Yeah, well, apparently everybody has a sauna
Honestly,
in
that's not
Finland,
worth
and
it.
just blows me
Saunas
away.
are great, but if the setup is be Finnish and go into a sauna,
That's
I don't
true.
think that's worth it.
I'd rather not be Finnish and not have a sauna.
Oof.
That's true. Alright, so Flippin, how old are you?
I am 30, going to be 31 in October.
Alright, old man.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I am from New Jersey, on the east coast of the United States, though I was born in New York City, but I only lived there till I was 2, so I just can't say that I'm from Jersey because, well, reasons.
Aren't they, like, really close to each other?
Yeah, I always joke that New Jersey is just New York's largest suburb.
Yeah.
But I
Can
mean,
we just take a moment to point this out? Because I actually learned this a few years ago talking to you. New Jersey is an actual state.
yes,
Yeah.
New Jersey
'Cause
is
I
one of the states.
I
in the Union.
literally thought that New Jersey was a New York suburb.
Well,
Yeah,
for all
I mean,
intents and purposes, that's exactly what it is. That
would
and
be
Philly
easy-
suburb.
It would be easy to imagine that it's like New Jersey, New York, you know, like you say, the city and then the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's New Jersey, New York.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Exactly.
But I mean, like, for example, where I'm standing right now, I could be in New York
Are
City
you
in less
standing
than
up
30
while
minutes.
recording this, dude?
No, but,
Sorry, go ahead.
but yeah, no, that's like I said, I'm 30 minutes from, you know, quote unquote the greatest city on earth, which I'm sure is
Or like-
completely relative.
Or like 2 hours if Chris Christie closes the bridges again.
Yeah, that was oh man. I
Did you
used
vote for Chris Christie as governor?
I honestly, I hate to say it, I did not exercise my right to vote when it came to the
Oh.
gubernatorial decision.
Alright.
If I, or did I? I forget, honestly.
What?
Yeah, I legit forget if I voted for him. I'm sorry. I'm a horrible,
Alright.
horrible American. But
Well,
I
if
would,
you voted, did you vote for him?
I
Or-
would have, yes. Prior to,
Oh.
obviously now, but I always respected the fact that he was such, like, I don't want to say hard ass, but he was just like, this is my stance, this is what you're going to have to deal with.
He's
and
basically
if I'm
a
in,
bully.
I mean,
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. He has this sort of charm to him where he's like, he's sort of firm in his convictions in a strange sort of way.
I've
Exactly.
never heard of the guy before, but he sounds very no nonsense.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
for when
That's-
he, you know, shut down the George Washington Bridge, which is one of the primary means of getting from New Jersey into New York. And
to punish someone as well or something like
yeah,
that.
some
Like
sort of
this
political
strike back, yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're gonna get into American politics a bit later. So,
Yes.
FlippinKamikaze. Why are you called that? Where's your nickname from?
My nickname comes from a combination of things that I thought was genius when I was in high school. Flippin' because it's a play on flip, which is funny, or fucking, depending on who you're talking to, little island person. I'm Filipino. Flip, that's the kind of thing. And then Kamikaze stems from the fact that at the time I played a lot of first-person shooters like Counter-Strike and Battlefield and the like. And my playstyle had always been, don't care, let's go, you know, And so I'd run into rooms, I'd keep charging headlong into death, and my KDR would be just absolute shit, but I didn't care because in some ways I kind of had fun. One of the games that I really enjoyed, as far as the name, was Day of Defeat, where you could cook grenades by dropping them, and often I would die a couple times to a guy that was stationary, so I'd drop a grenade on my feet, run at him, and then the grenade would fly out, and he'd die, and he's like, wow, you're living up to your name. I was like, that's why I picked it.
Alright. Wait, so is flip like something you call a Filipino?
Yes, you can call a Filipino person a flip.
Is that like insensitive?
Is that a slur?
I don't know. Like, I've always been used to
like
it.
gook? Is it like the Filipino version of gook?
It might be. I honestly don't know if it carries a pejorative sense to it.
Because I call you flip all the time on stream and shit.
Oh yeah, everybody does.
Well, yeah, that's just short for flippin' though for me. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But, like, flip actually is a term, and
right.
apparently, it has its contexts, and I've always received it as just, hey, that's what I am. I'm a funny little island person, but I don't know if it's actually derogatory or not.
Little island person.
I'm short by most standards, so...
Yeah, fair enough. Alright, so it's actually really good. We have our first sort of Asian person. I guess it's East Asia? Southeast Asia? Where the fuck is...
The Philippines is.
Philippines
you could argue that I'm also a Pacific Islander because the Philippines are an archipelago of over about 7,000 islands that are southeast of China and more or less directly south of Japan.
I buy that because if you put on 30 pounds, you could kind of look Samoan.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally could.
Yeah.
All right. So, how long have you been part of the Dopelives community?
I have been part of the community for approximately, 4 years now, almost, if not more. 4 to 4.5 years, something like that. Yeah.
So, how did you find it? And why did you stay once you had found it?
I found this place, actually, after my mom had passed, and I was looking up video game videos, and I think I stumbled upon your video of Amnesia, Dope. And I just remember the sheer terror in your voice and laughing when you were laugh crying. And I was like, this dude's kind of funny. And I noticed the link, and I was like, all right, I'll take a look. And, of course, I joined pretty much when the rest of Europe was asleep, because it was like 10 o'clock my time. And there wasn't really much going on. And I was just like, hey, what's going on here? And people responded. And, you know, I some of the old faces like Communist Prime, if anybody remembers him, who's listening, he was one of the first few people to greet me. And I don't know, I just kept sticking around, stopped back in. And then I think I really solidified myself as a quote-unquote regular in the community when I was a character in one of Sweet Pea's games. I forget what it's called. Don't Go Out Alone, I think it was.
Don't
Go Alone. There you go. And I was a party member, and a bunch of funny shoops developed from it. And it was, I don't know, I enjoyed what I was seeing, what I was experiencing, and I was like, you know what? I'll stop back in until it stops being fun, and it has not stopped being fun.
And since you've become a streamer as well?
Indeed. I really don't know why I felt inspired to be a streamer. I always thought that I was somewhat entertaining, but I never really had a forum to sort of do that. And streaming games suddenly made sense. It's just like, well, if you think you're entertaining and you play video games, why not do both? And I just got pushed into that direction, and I got a couple of positive nudges, and 3 years later, I'm still streaming, and people still apparently enjoy my streams. I don't know why. You people are crazy.
But it's so much fun to see you fail at sneaking.
And building bridges.
Yes. Sorry to hear about your mom, by the way.
She's in a better place, if there is even a different place, but that's a totally different discussion of its own.
We can leave that aside for now.
Yes.
Anderson, go ahead.
Alright. How much of a fat nerd are you, Flip?
I would say I'm a could stand to lose 10 pounds nerd.
How much is 10 pounds in real measurements?
Shit, I think it's like 5 kilos. 4.5, 5
so
kilos.
That's very slightly overweight then or something.
Yes.
10 pounds isn't that much.
No, not at all. But I mean, I'm pretty nerdy. Like, I would in some ways argue that video games have made me more of an introvert than ever before, which is ironic for a guy who considers himself an entertaining streamer. But like, I play a lot of video games, more so. Like, I enjoy playing video games more than I enjoy going out. Like, for example, yesterday was the 4th of July, and like 80% of the time that I was at the barbecue I was just like, I could be home playing video games.
Loud. My feet hurt.
No.
I wish I was home playing video games.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally recognize that as well.
You know, but I mean, so I played a lot of video games. I've done D&D. Dope, you would know this. We had the D&D thing going for a while. I'm currently part of a semi-active Pathfinder group. We're actually going to be meeting in person for like 6 hours. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have dinner and just pathfind our way to the end of the night, and then we're going to go back to work like regular non-nerds. I played Warhammer. I worked at the Games Workshop for a little bit. So, I mean, if...
Yeah, pretty nerdy is the bottom line, I guess.
Exactly. I was going to say, if fat is just the if we're going by literal fat, then not really.
No. We're not talking about fat. We're talking about fat nerd. There's,
okay.
You know,
gotcha.
the whole thing.
Well, then in that case, I'm an obese nerd, probably.
What do you do for a living when you're not nerding?
When I'm not nerding out, right now, I work as a purchasing agent. It is pretty much every girl's dream job. I'm paid to spend all day on the internet buying stuff with other people's money. Granted, what? it's all money for the organization. So the company I work for.
So are you like doing
purchasing
for like a corporation, or are you doing this like to personal people?
No. It's for a corporation. I work at an industrial heating systems manufacturing company.
Well, there you lost the whole girl appeal, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, like on paper, it's just like, hey, you know, you just have to buy all this stuff.
But when you said it like that, it sounded like you were like a style agent or something. Like you bought clothes for people.
Which is funny because there was a time when I worked at a bank, and I remember there was a girl who described her job as such. Like she was on somebody's retinue to buy clothes and, you know, other stylish things for them. And I was just like, wow, that's an actual job. Okay.
A person who's rich enough to have that kind of thing?
Yeah, I was just
did you ask who she worked for? Must have been someone famous, right?
It was, I guess. I just don't remember because, you know, A, I think they kind of faded, and B, you know, applying confidentiality, etc.
I would totally have my own personal shopper if I could afford it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
It's fairly far down on the list of things, though. Like maid, house cleaner, and then like cook, maybe, and then a few more things, and then the personal style shopping person.
Yeah,
agreed. With that.
Yeah, agreed. I would definitely have a house cleaner first and foremost. I would actually not give up a driver. Like I actually kind of enjoy driving more so than I'd want a chauffeur to drive me everywhere. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
Sometimes it must be nice though if you're the kind of person who goes out to parties and stuff to be able to get home at the time.
That's true. Basically a privatized Uber.
Yeah. Then again, you could just use Uber or a taxi or something if you're doing it so seldom.
Yeah, and if you're that rich that you have can afford a chauffeur, then I'm sure you can afford the $50 or whatever it is for a taxi.
That's true. So this company, hardware stuff, what is it you do for it exactly? Like people tell you that we're out of like tubes, and you go and buy some copper tubes. Something like that. The easiest way to think about it is if you think of a factory assembly line, and the factory needs a certain component heated up to a certain temperature over a certain length to do whatever. We build those entire systems, from the heating elements to the conveyor belt to the housing, the handles, all that stuff. And what happens is we have our own in-house engineers that build everything, and they basically give me a build list and like, hey, for this upcoming project, I need X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E. And it's my job to get it in a timely manner and as cheaply as possible without sacrificing quality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right.
And then on top of that, I also normally get shop stuff. So, like, you know, while they're putting stuff together, hey, a bunch of our drill bits are broken. We need to get a new one. You know, I'm actually working out trying to get my company a new copier because we have 3 ink printers on one of our floors, and it's just like, well, let's just get a laser because everybody prints black and white. It's faster, cheaper, and we don't have to worry about, the $7,000 in ink that we're going to spend annually. So, stuff like that.
That does sound like a fairly sort of high up position, but are you a subordinate? Like, how much oversight is there? And are you in charge of this, or are you one of 20 people who do this?
I am the sole purchasing agent of my company. I pretty much report to our company's controller, and that's it.
What's a controller?
It's
like a manager.
It's
CEO?
it's a technical term for a finance guy, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But like we're a fairly small company. It's only like 30 of us. So it's weird to call somebody like that a CFO, because it's like you think of a chief financial officer as somebody part of like a multinational conglomerate or whatever. So I guess from what I understand, and I probably butchered this, the lower term is controller.
All right, fair enough.
So he's the money bags.
Yes, precisely.
So when you're not playing or watching video games, what else do you do for hobbies?
I've been trying to get into airsoft. I actually have an airsoft rifle, but I've just been too much of a gamer to actually commit to going outside and playing first-person shooters in real life. I do have a handgun. I go shooting from time to time, but I don't really shoot as much because bullets are expensive, and I would rather...
Are we still talking airsoft here or real guns?
No, I mean, I have an airsoft gun and I have an actual handgun.
Oh, okay.
I know about 5 people in chat who will be pissed off if you do not tell us what your actual gun is, make and model.
Yes, our resident K delegation. I would let them know that I have a 9mm Springfield XD9. And
XD?
I know. I wish it was a joke, but that was honestly, if I had known this community prior to getting it, I probably would not have gotten it. Because every time
you should have gotten it even more so because it's funnier.
Just to troll them, it's just like, hey, check it out, I have an XD. It's two-tone, so the slide is silver, the handle is black. And yeah, I really enjoy it. It feels very ergonomical in my hand. My only regret is that I didn't get it in 45, but how
many shells fits in the clip? And shells, please.
It's I actually just recently found out that I have to get a new magazine because my current ones hold, I think, 20, and I'm not allowed that in New Jersey because New Jersey has some very, very strict handgun laws and firearms laws in general. So I have to get one that holds fewer rounds. But yeah, that's the one I currently have.
Since Dope did the whole joke thing with clip and magazine, just pretend I'm 5 years old and you only have a short amount of time. Explain to me, what is a clip and what is a magazine? Okay,
so a clip is... It's hard to... I mean, I don't really know too much of a difference. I could show you, like, by pictures. So if you think about something that...
Isn't it, like, a magazine has a clip within it, but there are also, like, rifles and such that don't have magazines. You just load, like, the clip into it.
Right.
Like those World War II rifles where you sort of put the clip in the top.
Correct. Like, for example, the easiest thing that stands out in my mind is if you think of, like, a Mauser Car 98 or a Mosin Nagant. The bullets were on a clip, and it was just this little strip of metal that held all the bullets together in a nice, neat pack, so that all you had to do was push it into the magazine of the rifle, and then you'd get rid of the clip, and then you'd be able to shoot. An actual magazine itself is a location or an item that holds all your rounds. From there, it gets fired, I think. I don't know. Like I said, the K delegation would probably be very upset that I don't know this, and I cannot properly articulate it, and I'm very sorry.
It's good. That means we've succeeded with one of the goals of this podcast, and piss off the gun fags.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, no, if you want to piss off gun fags, then you just need to watch... oh, God. I remember FGW Wolf streamed it for a few of us one night. It was Olympus Has Fallen. If you want to piss off K... make them watch that movie through its entirety, and they will collectively have an aneurysm. It'll be the greatest thing you'll ever watch. The Meltdown, not the movie. It was actually horrible.
Yeah. All right. So, what games are you playing right now?
It's more like what game am I playing right now? I have developed an insane obsession with Elite Dangerous, which is a space flight sim type deal.
It's basically Star Citizen.
Don't mention space games around Dope.
I know.
I don't know if
the past 3 podcasts have been exactly. Yeah. That's why I was like, I was very loath to mention it, but I'm like, that's what I'm playing right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, at least that is like an actual game. Like there's gameplay, and it looks pretty fun. It looks a bit like freelance.
Yes.
How about? Do you have any outstanding streaming projects?
All of them. I started Skyrim, haven't quite finished it. I've started The Witcher and developed a gambling addiction, and I'm very, very loath to go back into it every now and then. But I do stream those from time to time. Dope gave me a bridge building game that I've yet to play through to completion, so that's another thing. I'm trying to think, what else have I got on my plate? Eventually, I want to pop back into the Far Cry series because I've completed that. I still need to finish 3 and 4.
Oh, yeah. They're basically the same game, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And so that's why I kind of, like, I'm trying to space them out because I know Wolf did it, like, not even a year ago. So
yeah.
I don't want to, like, clog the community with just, another stream.
Yeah, they're good fun, though, and worth playing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've played through 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And they were a lot of fun.
Have you played Crysis?
I have Crysis 2. I don't have 1. But I've heard good things about
Crysis
it.
1. It's most like Far Cry 1 out of the entire sort of Far Cry Crysis series. Because Far Cry 2 gets, sandboxy, open worldy.
Oh,
while Crysis is sort of a story-based. And there's like sandbox elements to it, but you still have these levels where you have a mission, a goal kind of thing.
I gotcha.
Instead of being able to drive around freely.
Okay.
There's a more tight story to it. It's quite good, not great, but quite good.
Okay. I mean,
basically, if you don't know, by the way, the team behind Far Cry, they lost the license to Crysis, they lost the license to Far Cry, and then they made Crysis instead as their spiritual sequel.
Which
so
I don't know. In some ways,
like a different team.
Okay, which in some ways I kind of enjoyed, at least. Looking at Crysis, I enjoyed what I was seeing from like trailers and gameplay as opposed to actually like Far Cry itself, which, again, Far Cry, the series, great, enjoyable, had a lot of great, memorable moments, but at the same time, I don't know, mercenary work in that sense just didn't really do it for me, and I got very grindy at a point where it's just like, oh, time to kill somebody else this time, here I go.
You're talking about Far Cry 2 here,
or? Yes, Far Cry 2.
Yeah. I think it's the worst in the series, but some people really like it because it's the most grounded and realistic. But I don't know. Yeah, it got really samey and so many respawning enemies. Anyway,
grounded
back
and realistic. Aren't the Far Cry games the ones where you hookshot the ground and then parachute into the air?
No, that's Just Cause.
Oh, I can never keep those two separated.
Well, they're both tropical.
Yeah.
So back to Elite Dangerous.
Yes.
5-second sell. Why is it good?
It's good because of its production values. The game sound, for example, is top-notch. You really feel... I mean, yeah, the whole argument, you can't hear anything in
5
space.
seconds,
but
dude.
like, oh, shit. Fuck. All right.
Great visuals and audio. What's next?
Solid gameplay, massive world, and opportunity to do whatever you want.
All right.
And you cheat. You cheat when it comes to immersion, right? Because you go the extra mile.
I do go the extra mile. I'm actually currently surrounded by my the people in the know would call it a HOTAS, which is a hands-on throttle and stick combination. So I have a joystick and a throttle with like 7,000 buttons on it, and on top of that, I have Track IR, which is this you either wear a hat or you have a clip that's mounted to your headphones, and it has some LEDs, and there's a sensor that you put on your monitor, and it tracks your head movement. So when you
it's
turn,
basically like wonky Kinect or something like that.
I would say more solid connect because it doesn't rely on just actual head movement.
Enough.
But yeah, like you turn your head to the left, and the game view turns to the left, and for sim fans.
Wait, do you have VR glasses with that as well, or?
Unfortunately, no.
Then how do you're gonna look to the left, and you're no longer looking at your monitor?
Well, you don't have to look all the way to the left. Like it's exaggerated movement.
Fair enough.
So
So you thought about getting like an Oculus or something?
I definitely want to put it on my wish list. I just want to wait until it's out.
Until it's good.
Right, because I mean, there's something to be said about your I forget the marketing term for the people who just go out and immediately buy things the second they come out. But there's something to be said.
First wave adopters or something.
Yeah, exactly. First adopters, something like that. And that's all fine and well, but in my head, it's just like. But there's so many bugs and issues, and what if nothing comes out? And
basically, you don't want to fund development; you just want to buy the finished product.
I'd rather.
So you're the opposite of Fate Weaver.
Yeah, I'd rather fund what I know to be good. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because I mean, I've listened to the podcast because again, if I'm going to be on the podcast, something might be referenced, and I'm just going to be like, "Huh? What are you talking about?"
I really like that dedication. Good job.
Thanks. Thank you.
But I also don't like that you only listen to the podcast because you were going to be on it.
No. Oh my god, the backpedaling is real. No, I meant when I found I was listening to them initially when I found out that they were going to be a thing, and that was part of the reason why I think Andersen, you approached me, is like, would you want to be on? And I was like, well, hell yeah, why not?
Actually, originally, because you have such a shitty schedule these days, you actually talked to me and said, like, I like the podcast. It's a shame I couldn't be on them. And I was like, why the fuck couldn't you? Let's make it work.
I get yeah, it was one of those. It was, I forget, my memory is shit these days, and it was one of those. It was either I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing and I'd like to be a part of it, or you approached me, or something happened where it's like, hey, be on the podcast.
It's fine, man. You don't need to explain yourself. We've gotten really sidetracked. Let's get back onto the questions, I think.
And it's time for the question of the week. What, FlippinKamikaze, is your favorite fictional spaceship?
Favorite fictional spaceship, I would have to go with, off the top of my head, I'm going to go with the Battlestar Galactica. The newer one.
The newer
Correct.
one.
Yes.
All right. What is your favorite real spaceship?
Apollo 13.
Apollo 13. Which one is that? Isn't that the one that went tits up? Or is that just the movie?
Well, that was the one
Didn't they recover that one?
Almost
went really bad?
Yeah, it went bad to shitty hey, we got everybody back.
I need to confirm something. Apollo 13, that is the one from where...
The movie.
It was a movie.
The quote, Houston, we've got a problem, comes from, right?
Correct, yes.
All right. So why are those two your favorite spaceships?
Well, the Battlestar Galactica is my favorite fictional spaceship just because I enjoyed the series as a whole, because it felt human, I guess. Like, you think about Star Trek and the United Federation of Planets, and the idea that, everything is lovey-dovey and humans don't have to worry about, the social mores.
I will cut you.
Okay.
I'm just saying, man. I will cut you.
You're more than welcome to hop on a plane, fly over. I'll take you out to dinner, and then you can slit my throat. That's fine.
Yeah. You don't badmouth Star Trek on this podcast,
Star Wars, all fine and dandy, but I don't know, it's just become so campy and just Yeah. So, Battlestar Galactica, it was a ship with guns, flat cannons, nukes. I don't know, it just felt like something that real humans would put together and put out into space if they had the time, energy, technology to pull it off.
I'm just gonna try and put words in your mouth here because it's what I feel. One of the reasons the Battlestar is so good is because it feels like an actual battleship.
Yes. It blends carrier and battleship together because it is bristling with firepower, but it also relies on...
it feels like something that is a thing in modern military, and then it would make sense for it to be in space as well. Correct.
Yes. If
there was... It doesn't rely on phasers or photon torpedoes. It actually uses real guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It uses realistic technology. So, do you like it because it's kind of gritty in that way?
In some ways, yes. I really appreciated Battlestar Galactica's humanistic approach to everything. It's like, yes, they're in space, but they're still dealing with human issues. Like, I mean, I hate to. I'm sure this is going to be a topic in a subsequent podcast, but the whole episode about abortion, where it's like, well, this woman's pregnant, and we're part of the remaining human fleet of 42,000 whatever 300 whatever it was, and she doesn't want to have the baby, and it's like, but the continuation of the species, blah blah blah, and I don't know. Yeah, it was just very. It was a
all
very
good sci-fi, like racist moral quandaries that are applicable to real life.
I really loved the character of Laura Roslin.
Agreed. Absolutely.
President. I have to say, I really liked that all the characters in the show was human, except that one guy who was just a perfect moral compass. He was the most boring thing in the show.
Well, you need that, I guess, on some level, because it's like you can't have moral relativity without a center, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
He was just a bit too much Mr. Perfect for my...
Play dumb jut human. So, why is Apollo 13 your favorite? Real spaceship. Is it because of the story?
Yes, absolutely.
Alright.
Then I guess, in the interest of actually reaching our topics, I think that that's all I have to say. It was a real humanistic... There was an issue, there was a struggle, there was survival... There was triumph, fanfare, waving of the American flag, bald eagle crying, etc., etc.
Time for the most important question.
Go ahead, Andersen.
No, it's the important question. You ask it.
Okay. Flippin, who is your waifu?
My waifu? God. I guess?
God. God is your waifu?
Well, no, because I could never be as perfect as God.
But that's true for all the waifus.
That's true. I would say
so much better than you.
Yeah, seriously. I would actually say Fate is my waifu, because as much as the man hates me to pieces, he still can't help but just go, oh, Flippy, and everything's better at the end, and the credits roll, and you hear Fate and Flip was filmed before his live studio audience.
All right, fair enough. So, Andersen, let's move on to the feedback.
Little feedback from last week's podcast. The first one, I really think this is directed at you, Dope, because my answer is no. Elemental Skaters 001 asks, does Well of Souls ring a bell? And
Well of Souls?
Yes, I have no idea what he's talking about. I figured that was for you.
The Well of Souls, sometimes translated as a Pit of Souls, Cave of Spirits, or Well of Spirits, it's a partially natural, partly man-made cave located inside the foundation stone under the dome of the rock shrine in Jerusalem.
What?
You mentioned in your podcast something about caves, and I think that's what he's referring to, and I honestly have no idea what Well of Souls refers to either. So
the answer to his question is no. No, it really doesn't.
I've never heard of it, no. Apparently it's something in Jerusalem, some holy site.
I figured it would be a game, because it sounds like
I thought
a game
so as well
title.
before I googled it, but yeah.
Alright, moving on.
I thought it's like, hey, we're talking about shitty games. Have you heard about Well of Souls? Like, I mean, it could be a game as well. Let me double check. But I really don't think so. Maybe? Synthetic Reality, Well of Souls, free multiplayer online role-playing game.
Oh.
Holy shit, it looks old as dicks. It has like pre-RuneScape graphics. I've never heard of it, so yeah, I don't know.
So that's the answer. No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, no bells.
Next one is, again, Smexy Jeebus.
Becoming a regular on the feedback.
A regular commenter. And he says, see, the thing is, even if the authorities are racially biased to such an extreme that they refuse to open fire on a citizen when they can help it, only when they're white, it doesn't change the fact that it's what should happen. Wanting them to kill him on sight is not justice, it's revenge. It's uncivilized and shouldn't happen. The way social media so often resembles lynch mobs these days is frightening. I gotta say, I kind of agree with him.
This is in regards to the Charleston shooter, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm guessing as much as well.
Yeah.
It's wrong that they would have shot him if he's black. They definitely shouldn't shoot him if he was black. They may or may not have done so. But it's still right that they took him alive, whether it's because he was white or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like the whole thing of you don't make people equal by dragging everybody down. You make people equal by lifting everybody up.
Yeah. Flippin', that whole thing must make you uneasy because you're kind of brownish because you're Filipino.
Oh, that's actually a really interesting question. And you're in America as well.
Yes.
How does
New York.
institutionalized racism affect your life?
I don't know. Like, it's weird because everything about me, I just hit my pop filter, so that's going to be weird, but everything about me has just been one big ball of I don't belong here. You know, I feel like part of me is about to say what I'm going to immediately take back, and I'm not sorry about it, but I feel like, you know, it's still very much a white America, but that's not a bad thing. That's just how that worked out. They were here first, aside from the Indians, and we won't get into that argument either.
And they're the majority as well.
Exactly. Not for much longer, but they're still the majority. You know,
but even after there's a majority of the minority is so splintered. Like,
exactly.
Even if there's 40% white and, you know, 12% black and then Asians, blah blah blah, there's still 40% the big blob that's white.
Exactly. And so, like, another solid example, I was an EMT, and when I was taking EMT courses, I was the only Asian present. I didn't think anything of it. I just made the observation. I was like, okay. And I just went about doing what I could otherwise.
The others were busy studying to become doctors.
Well, I guess. Or
so, you were born in America, right?
Correct. I was born in New York City.
So you're a second generation, or however that works?
Correct, yes.
Parents?
Yeah, my parents were born in the Philippines. They were the first ones to come to the U.S., and here I came.
All right, so this sense of not belonging, like in, you know, school and stuff, were you also basically the only...
I wasn't
Filipino,
the only
Asian. Or?
I wasn't the only Filipino. I wasn't the only Asian, but I was also part of a very small demographic. Like, I didn't go to public schools. My mom made sure that I paid to go to a Catholic high school. I paid. She paid to get me into a Catholic grade school, Catholic high school. So, I mean, and my grade school was only we had a graduating class of 17 people. Like, it was really small.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and then in high school, it's still relatively small. My graduating class was like 320 somewhere in there. So
yeah, still pretty small.
Yeah, still pretty small, but you know, I wasn't the only Asian, but I was certainly one of the minorities in most cases.
So did you like how do you say it? Did you congregate with other Asians? Like, was there cliques of, like, did you make Asian friends, or were you spread out, if that makes any sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, like, in grade school, I ended up being friends with a Puerto Rican and an Indian, and a black kid. And those are the people that I mostly hung out with when I was in high school.
That's almost like a superhero group, like so diverse and color-coded.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
planet, you know?
Yeah, it was a very, like, for the size of 17 people, a graduating class of 17 people, our class was very diverse. A couple Filipinos, the Indian, black person. We had a Kenyan.
When you say Indian, was he like a Indian or like a rice and curry Indian?
A dot, not the feather.
Okay, yeah.
And
he was Desi Indian.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, and I think there were like 2 or 3 white people in the class. And in high school,
it was almost reversed then.
Yeah, it was very weird. I guess out of the norm, if you will.
But, okay, so all right. So the question is, like, in like bigger society, have you felt negatively affected by your skin color or, you know, ethnicity? Like, I don't know, racially profiled, like you didn't get a job or didn't get into a school, or
in the
like
grander
stopped or something like that by police, or
in the grander scheme of things, I'd have to say no. But I also argue that I'm almost a model citizen. Pay my taxes, keep my nose clean. I do have a lead foot. Yeah, well, that was somebody else's fault. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I have to ask, when we're on the racial thing, I know I kind of go on about this a lot. I just think it's funny, but has anyone ever mistaken you for Mexican?
Yes, I've been told that I could pass as an Ecuadorian. I don't know about Mexican, but someone did tell me, you look Ecuadorian. I'm like, thanks, I guess. But I've always joked that, like, you know, as a Filipino, it's easy to spot a Filipino because if you can look at them and they're somewhat Asian looking, but they have tan skin, that's likely they're Filipino. And if they have a Spanish last name, they're definitely Filipino. Because
I saw a comedian do a bit on that, Carlos Mencia.
Yes.
He basically said Filipinos are the beaners of Asia.
I would argue we're the Puerto Ricans of Asia because Mexico implies that we're part of the mainland and we are our own little island group. So Puerto Rico seems more fitting because
fair enough. Although in my mind, Puerto Rico is part of
Beaners.
Latin. Yeah,
I guess
kind of. Yeah.
Ish.
All right. Yeah. We should really move on, even though this is a very interesting discussion.
Yeah. The last bit of feedback. Citizen001 says, I've been in Dopelives chat on and off, not often lately, for like 4 years now, and these podcasts make me wish I had become more of a regular in the community. It's not too late to do that.
Yeah,
true facts.
You're still very much welcome, obviously.
Anyways, I'm a game developer by trade, and unfortunately/fortunately, I end up working on games more than actually playing them nowadays. So I love listening to discussions about design from people who probably play way more games than I ever will. What are some design issues in games that bother you guys, and what is it about your favorite games that make them so good from a design technical perspective? That's kind of a big thing, and we should probably have it as its own topic at some point.
Agreed.
True, but we could answer it.
Just briefly.
Just briefly, yeah. So some design issues that really bother me is forced tutorials, like really slowness in games, unskippable cutscenes, stuff like that. Where you're replaying a game and you have to spend the first hour doing the things that you already know how to do. Yeah. It really sucks. And there's so many ways of doing it better, where you can sort of, as a skilled player, you can double jump and then you get up on the the exit earlier, and you don't have to go through the fucking marathon thing of learning all the controls, that kind of stuff. That's something that really bothers me. And I'm not sure what about my favorite games make them so good. They're just very satisfying to play. I'm thinking like Diablo 2 and I don't know, CS, stuff like that. There's just this sense of satisfaction, be it like finding a new item or getting that headshot. It's
a sense of achievement.
Kind of like, yeah, true. It's kind of like that Skinner's box thing where you do a task over and over and only very infrequently get a reward from it, and it's like random. And that's something that humans in general tend to like, according to psychology. But I think it's very true for me. I really like that.
I would argue that one of the things that I appreciate in good games is a solidly executed mechanic. It kind of ties back to what Kevin had talked about. Like, find something that you are particularly good at, and then continue to push that forward. And I'll tie this back kind of sort of back to Elite Dangerous. I'm sorry, Dope, but one of the things that I love about the game is that it can still take the routine. Like, if you're going to be a trader, then okay, fly out, buy something, go to the other place, sell for more, whatever. Whatever you do, there's always still the threat of challenge. In other words, like, you can get pulled out of Super Cruise and face somebody. Like, I play as a bounty hunter, so I fly around, I find people that have bounties and are wanted, and I take them down. And I've got a fairly high level, mid-level ship now, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of I kind of know what I can fight and what I can't fight. And I recently got pulled out, and I was just like, okay, time for this scrub to die. And lo and behold, he just annihilates me. Like, he didn't kill me outright, but I was just like, this is bad. I'm going to leave. I need to leave right now. My windshield is cracking. I need to go. I need to go. I need to leave. I need to leave. And I left, and I repaired, and it was just like, I'm not as strong as I think I am.
Yeah, and you've also learned something from the experience. You discovered a new thing, and you know that there's a further goal to strive towards. Like,
exactly.
There's more challenges to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we should definitely take this, Andersen, and put it in our list of topics, because I have a lot of things to say about game design. You already did?
Yeah.
All right. Good shit. All right. Well, let's move on to our weekly recommendations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys got anything to recommend this week? I hope you do.
Well, I'll go with it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Is it Elite Dangerous?
No, because that's obvious.
Wait, you wouldn't recommend already. Elite Dangerous? That makes no sense.
No, I wouldn't recommend it on this podcast because the horse has been beaten dead, brought back to life, and beaten the second time. But aside from that, implicit recommendation, I was out at a barbecue. And 2 recommendations that I would give anybody who has the opportunity: make a fire pit, because they're just fun. It's weird.
What's a fire pit?
A fire pit is
a hole in the ground with a fire in it.
Yeah, literally. Like where I went to.
What's the difference between that and an over pit fire?
Well, it's a little bit more contained because you have like and and I am a bit of a pyro, so
it's better for sacrificing Native American children like you traditionally do on 4th of July.
Of course, absolutely.
That was British children on 4th of July.
Well, they're kind of rare these days. But that and take a hot dog, wrap it in bacon, fry it. A little barbecue sauce on top with a hot dog bun.
Wait, why are you frying it?
Because America, dude.
But you just made a fire pit. Why aren't you fucking barbecuing it?
Well, everybody was sitting around the fire at the time, and he had...
So you're not cooking on the fucking fire?
No, it was just there for warmth.
What?
Seriously, Flippin.
You just make a fire for ambiance and then bring out the fucking heavy fryer?
We had a heavy fryer, America? We had a smoker, and we had a grill going at the same time. It was the most American thing in the history of American things, and I loved it.
You know how we've talked sometimes about some foods here in Denmark maybe being a little more American than American?
Yes, I do remember this.
Bacon-wrapped sausages here in Denmark are a completely normal thing. If you go to a hot dog stand, you will see bacon-wrapped sausages on the heater because they're just a completely ordinary thing here. If you go somewhere for sausages and they don't have them bacon-wrapped, that's kind of unusual.
Yeah, really? That's true.
Okay, because this is honestly the first
but
time
I do support your recommendation. They're really good.
Yes, and then if you throw a little barbecue sauce, it's heavenly. So,
what exactly is barbecue sauce? That's such a
broad term, isn't it?
Yeah, is it tomato based or is it like
I'm
sour
pretty
cream
sure
based?
I'm pretty sure it's tomato based. The ones that I have often are tomato based.
So it's kind of like a spicy ketchup or something.
I guess sometimes they're sweet, sometimes they're tangy, sometimes they're spicy.
It's the one that says barbecue on the label.
Andersen knows.
Enough. So you recommend something that 90% of the world already knows, like a.
Yeah, and I mean, sausage. There's another topic that apparently 90% of the world knows about, and I'll discuss that later.
All right.
So, speaking of recommending things that 90% of the world already like, I've spent the past 2 days catching up on this, so this has to be my recommendation. I recommend Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Yeah, really brilliant.
Do you really think so?
I really think so.
You watched season 5 recently, yes?
Yes.
Season 5 is by far my least favorite season of Game of Thrones.
I felt like it felt shorter than the other seasons, and it's probably not my favorite season either, but just Game of Thrones as a whole is just so good.
I agree. Even though it is the worst Game of Thrones, it's still good. It's still good television. It doesn't compare to so many other things, but... I feel like the quality in this season has been really lacking.
I felt like they took some things that had kind of reached a conclusion, it was kind of foregone, and then they kind of shook it up and did something unexpected with it.
Yeah, sometimes. Flippin, do you watch Game of Thrones?
I watched it. I am reading the books now. I'm on the last book.
Have you watched season 5?
Correct, yes. I would agree on some level that the quality has definitely changed, and I think... in some ways the formula has become samey in the sense that, hey, here's this guy who's doing really good things. Don't worry, he's not gonna die. Wink!
Yeah, that's true. The shocking deaths get less shocking the more of them you have.
Right. But, I mean, it is also at the same time par for that world. So, you know, I guess us as outsiders is like, oh my god, they killed X! You know, you're just like... There, it's just like, sucks to be him.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, I guess we're starting to get inculcated into that idea of nobody is safe, everybody is at risk, and as long as you accept that, then it's fine.
Hey everybody, this is Editing Dope talking to you from the future. Just a heads up, we're gonna talk about Game of Thrones spoilers for the next 2 minutes. Talking about Season 5, so if you haven't watched it, you might wanna go ahead and skip forward 2 minutes. If you have already seen it, then you should be good. We don't discuss book spoilers or anything like that. So, alright, back to the podcast. Yeah, I mean, you'll never have another Ned gets his head chopped off season 1 finale.
Correct.
Or another Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or even a purple one.
Yeah.
I think that Dorne really sucked this season. It was absolute garbage. The sand snakes and all that stuff could have just been removed completely. It had nothing to do with anything. the sand snakes themselves were super pathetic. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
I'm thinking...
They poisoned Bronn and then gave him the antidote straight afterwards? Like, what the fuck? Was that just to make some sort of stupid, like, cliffhanger?
Essentially, it was the vehicle into which, you know, Marcella dies, and you're just like, oh, it's the thing with the poison, yo, they did the thing, and then
they could have done it so much better.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But
yeah, I agree. They basically did that so we would know what that poison was and how it worked, and why she was drinking her necklace.
Yeah, but she didn't have to drink her necklace. It didn't have to be that kind of poison.
No. I actually commented when we were watching it that it would have been so much cooler if that poison didn't have an antidote.
Yeah,
and she basically elected to kill herself.
That's what I thought when we saw the blood start dripping out of her. It's like, oh my god, she just killed herself. No, she has the antidote.
Oh,
well.
weak sauce. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Well, that's super lame. I think the Walk of Shame and Hard Home basically redeemed the season. I don't care how bad the rest of it was, because those two events are so fucking good.
Not just the Walk of Shame.
10 hours of shit.
Her entire ordeal leading up to it as well.
Yeah,
with the
entire Cersei plotline
and the browbeat.
And also before that, before she was in the cell with the Faith Militant arming them and that kind of stuff, was really interesting.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, the High Sparrow, he is one of my favorite actors. I adore him.
Jonathan Price.
I loved him in Pirates. I loved him in the G.I. Joe movies. I loved him in this.
Yeah, he's great.
I mean, and you can see the range. Like, if you look at the British Whose Line Is It Anyway? As a comedian, it's stellar, his work.
Wait, he's been on Whose Line?
Yeah, the original British series.
I need to dig that up.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's leave Game of Thrones behind, I suppose. But yeah, I second the recommendation. If you're not already watching it, then you should watch it. It's like some of the best television out there right now. For my recommendation, I'm going to recommend something that is old and probably a lot of people have already done and played.
Join the club.
I'm going to recommend Terraria. There was recently a rather big patch, and that reinvigorated the game a lot. There's like a new game mode called Experts, and it basically brings with it like 600 new items and stuff. If you like Terraria but kind of felt burned out and have played through it once and kind of finished it, I'd recommend going back to it right now. It's fun. If you like Terraria, I would recommend it. And if you don't know what Terraria is, it's basically Minecraft but in 2D, mixed with something like Metroidvania. Like, it has this sort of sense of progression and combat, which is so much better than Minecraft.
And like, it's funny because I kind of got sucked into those games. Like, I remember Minecraft pulled me in for hours upon end, and oddly enough, I never actually picked up Terraria. And it sounds like I even played Starbound, and I still occasionally jump into it every now and then. So
Starbound is basically Terraria but without content.
Right, exactly, and that's ironic in some. Well, not ironic, but it's surprising in some way that
it's a failed sequel in my opinion. Like, it doesn't do anything.
I have to say,
than the original game.
I didn't really enjoy Terraria. I played it, and it might just not be the kind of game for me, because I was like, there's really nothing to do. There's tons of stuff to do in the game. But since I don't like spending hours experimenting and trying to hunt down something that may or may not be in some place...
Oh yeah, if you don't play with a wiki, you're doing something terribly wrong, in my opinion.
I basically have this thing where if I need a wiki to play the game, I kind of just knee-jerk reaction-ish feel that it's a bad game.
Enough.
It's the same reason I don't play Binding of Isaac. I love Binding of Isaac in theory, but needing a wiki to know what the items I pick up do...
Yeah. Terraria could definitely use some sort of guidance, like... Even though there's so much to do, there should maybe be not an arrow pointing towards something, but, you know, there's NPCs you can talk to. Maybe they could say, like, hey, so for the next mission you should gather some iron and build an anvil. Because even stuff like that isn't explained at all.
Have you tried getting the eye of this creature? I heard you can do some really amazing things with it. Just something vague like that.
Exactly. Like, oh, you have a lens in your inventory. Well, if you gather enough of them, you could craft them together. Because none of this is actually explained in the game especially well. So, yeah. But yeah, I would recommend Terraria. Get back into it, or get it for the first time if you like that kind of sandboxy exploration game.
Kind of reminds me of that time I was streaming Dark Souls and someone called me an idiot because I hadn't gone on an elevator and parried with my shield into the wall and noticed the sparks, and from that deducted that this particular shield had more active parry frames. I'm like, who does that?
Yeah, that was always fun. My Dark Souls streams were always filled with everybody yelling.
You're
like,
doing
what are you
wrong.
doing? You're a moron! How do you not choose this thing? And I'm just like, I don't know.
I think Dark Souls is pretty much like on the border. I think Dark Souls, you can play it blind and it's really good.
Right.
Or you can play it with a wiki and it's also pretty good.
You
but
know what the best way
Dark
to play
Souls
it
is like threading that line between too obscure to understand anything and just perfect enough to play.
You know what the best way to play it? I actually feel like Dark Souls might be the perfect streaming game.
Yeah, I agree.
At least for our chat, because having it with a wiki, I feel that basically dumbs it down too much when you know everything. Yeah. But having
and also
people,
you spoil yourself for bosses.
Having
and stuff
people
like that.
available where you can be like, okay, I don't get this. I don't get how does this affect my damage? I really can't see it. And then having someone else who went and completed the game 15 times and read all the wikis tell you, well, it's because this and this, and then you continue playing it blindly.
Agreed.
It's just perfect.
All right. Well, that's our recommendations for the week. Let's move on to our other topics.
Yay!
And, first, are we starting at the top? I guess we are.
Yeah, with the probably most current events topics. Flippin!
Yes.
You're an American, which means that you can now, as of recently, marry your favorite homo gay anywhere you want.
True facts.
And some people believe this is a great thing, others don't. I have two tweets here. I don't know who this guy is. It's a man named Brian Fisher. Have you heard of him?
Not at all.
All right.
Yes, I have.
Who is he? Just really brief.
I think he's part of like the family association or something like that. He's basically a conservative Christian that runs some sort of organization that tries to, preserve family values.
All right. Well, his first tweet, I feel like these are brilliant. This is Twitter gold.
Yes.
From @BrianJFisher. From a moral standpoint, 6/26 is now our 9/11. And the other one, June 26, 2015, the day the Twin Towers of Truth and Righteousness were blown up by moral jihadists.
Man, people with this worldview are just funny. It's so far removed from anything.
So
really
Flippin, you're more or less straight, right?
Yes.
So
correct.
Can you tell us?
You're also a Catholic.
Can you tell us how much more terrible your life has been after the homoing?
Not at all different, honestly.
So you actually like your husband? I mean, I heard the government were kicking down your door and forcing you to get gay married.
Apparently
that's true, right?
If they did, apparently they're a little late to the party because I have not had anybody knock down my doors. Nobody's black bagged me. I don't know.
Black bag. Is that a gay sexual act?
Only in gayporn.com.
Yeah, I guess it's actually worth asking because I suppose me and Andersen are very
liberal
in agreement over whole gay rights issues, stuff like that. Where do you actually stand on it, Flippin? Like, is there any part of you that feels like this is a weird thing? Like this shouldn't have happened?
I think it was actually the best way to put it. You mentioned it actually in chat. I think it was yesterday. Dope was that. Feeling that homosexuality is strange is normal.
Yeah, I think it's an icky, but yeah
icky.
Yeah.
The idea that it's uncommon or just like weird to you, that's fine. But imposing
discriminating against,
completely wrong, completely against. I've always had the stance that hey, you do what you want to do. You know where you stand. I know where I stand. That's not my thing, but that's okay for it to be your thing. Just don't hit on me, which is sad because I've been hit on by 3 gay men in my life. One was my department head in college, which was really, really creepy.
Is that a official of the school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is a bit creepy.
But I mean, it was.
I gotta
in
say,
my head,
in that situation, him being gay is like the least off thing about it.
Yeah. So do you get angry or like turned off or like disgusted when a gay man hits on you?
No, I mean the one time that's a little bit more relatable was I was working at a restaurant And it was these 3 guys, and at the end of the meal, one of the guys came back and he's like, listen, I don't know if this is against any sort of sexual harassment policies or anything, but I want to give you my number. And I was just like, I'm flattered, but I play for the other team. And he just kind of smiled and looked down and said, well, can't blame a guy for trying. And I'm like, oh, I guess you can't. Have a good night. And I walked away because I was just again.
Yeah, no, I mean, isn't that kind of flattering almost? Like,
absolutely. You know, I was with and at the time I was working with a lesbian, and she's like, dude, that is the biggest compliment you will ever receive. You hang on to that. And I was just like, I you know, again, I know where I stand. I know where I want to put my penis, and that's all fine and well. You know where you want to put your penis.
That doesn't mean that you want to force other people or discriminate against homosexuals that want to get married. Like 2 loving men, they should be able to visit each other in the hospital and
absolutely
have custodial rights and all that sort of thing. Like
absolutely
a straight couple, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. As and also as somebody in the military, who was in the military, anyways, one of the things that always that I kind of enjoyed and appreciated was our ability to integrate faster than others, you know, it was and it wasn't a thing, because then there was DOMA, which is just like gay people can't get the same benefits, but you can be married. Act. Yeah, sorry, Defense of Marriage Act. But again, TLDR was, you know, gay people can be gay in the military, but they won't get the benefits of, you know, regular spouse kind of deal.
Yeah,
and that's a very dumbed down version, but yeah, that's kind of what it is. But I always argue...
a long time ago, or I don't actually know when it was, but you weren't allowed to be gay in the military.
True facts.
And they adopted the don't ask, don't tell policy, where you were allowed to be gay as long as you didn't tell anybody, and nobody would ever ask you about your sexuality.
Right. And then it was just like, well, you can be gay, but you're not going to get the same benefits, and now I think that has rescinded.
Yeah, now I think now the policy is don't ask, don't give a shit.
Yeah. And truth be told, you know, I've always argued that I would rather have a volunteer than a conscript at my side. And if a volunteer happens to be gay, they know which way their gun's pointing.
But
multiple
what if
puns
you're
intended.
in the trenches and he suddenly fucks you in the butt? Because that will happen, because that's how gay people function. They can't control themselves.
Clearly, they're such animalistic beasts that all they care about is just getting their rocks off. Oh, wait, am I talking about everybody
gays
in general? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, I have, I think.
So,
I think,
do you know any gay people, Flippin? Like
multiples,
any
actually.
Gay friend?
Well, I had gay acquaintances back in high school.
When you say gay acquaintances,
I mean people that I saw fairly frequently, but that was because they were in classes. I knew them in college. I never actively hung out with them. They just happened to be in class, and we'd talk. You know, after class, we'd hang out for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get going. Oh, have a good one.
Yeah, all right,
you know,
all right, fair enough.
And, you know, that never really bothered me none.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple of lesbian friends.
Wait, that is despite going to Catholic school?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That wasn't a big thing for you guys? I always have the image of like a Catholic school being quite, I guess, sexually repressive and conservative.
I would argue it was definitely sexually repressive, but I would also counter the idea of, like, well, at least, again, I grew up in a very melting potty area, and I've always, and being, quote-unquote, the outsider again, I've just always believed that, you know, hey, you're here in a place where you have a chance to be who you are. Sure, you may be on the outside, but for the most part, you still have just as much of a chance, just as much of an opportunity as long as you bust your ass. And these people are doing the exact same thing. Why are we stopping them?
All right. So, did you have like sex ed properly, or did you have abstinence?
Sex ed. No, we had sex ed. But they didn't talk about condoms. But they did show us the miracle of birth. And that was, I guess, you know, abstinence through fear of, oh my god, that's coming out of her vagina. What? Ah!
Yeah. All right. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Andersen, anything to add?
No, not really. Not except someone once said, I'm not sure exactly who it was, who basically just said, if you're against gay marriage, don't get one.
Yeah. Agreed.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I have strong opinions about this idea that allowing gays to get married ruins straight marriage. You know, like it devalues it. It's just stupid.
Yeah, just like allowing other people to have cookies ruins my diet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the biggest thing, like, honestly, it's the 2 tweets by Ryan Fisher, when I read them, that made me more angry than being hit on by gay people. Only because, as a person who lives in New Jersey, I watched the towers fall. Not on TV. I literally looked outside and could see them coming down. In high school, one of my friends, her uncle died in the towers. And, it hits closer to home for me than everybody else.
I mean, it's
and that's all fine and well.
Stupid comparison.
Oh, it's so horrible. No. If I ever met this man, I would probably punch him in the face for the comparison. There you go. I said it.
All right. Can I just ask quickly? I don't want to go into it right now because it's another thing we might talk about later.
Okay.
Andersen specifically. What do you think about polygamy?
Considering that I'm in a polyamorous relationship, I think that's pretty fine.
Is it legal in Denmark?
No, not with like official marriage and stuff, but if you don't try to be officially wed to multiple people, I don't think anyone's going to give a shit.
But that's a problem though. Because if, say you have 2 wives or whatever, let's just say for the sake of argument, you have 2 wives.
Yeah, but
you can only choose to...
The thing is, traditionally, we associate polygamy with, like, the Middle East and Muslim world, and we have such a hate boner for sand people right now in Denmark.
Fair enough.
So that's not going to happen anytime soon. Anything that smells even faintly of being related to Islam is not going to
that's fair enough.
Gain weight.
But this hypothetical that I was getting at, so you have 2 girlfriends or whatever, and you basically decide to marry one of them, and then the other one gets sick and is put in the hospital, but she's not your wife, she's just your significant other or whatever, which means that you don't have the same rights as you would have if you were her husband. Basically, you don't have the right to make medical decisions for her, and in some areas you don't have the same visitation rights and so on, which is, I think, problematic. The same way it has been for gays in the past.
I agree.
All right, Flippin, any comment?
I think monogamy is has become a norm, but I think it's also contradictory to us as animals. But animals don't have to worry about proprietary things, really, and that's kind of why monogamy exists. And so, in some ways, I'd argue it's a necessary evil.
The whole idea of marriage stems from being a contract about property.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You would make a contract between 2 families about how the land would be split down from the parents to the children and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's essentially to establish heritage, and that's really it. And in some ways that makes sense because, again, proprietary requirements. You can't just be like, oh, I own this place. Says who? Says the fact that we have, something on file.
And that's why it's hilarious when people in the gay debate have been like, well, it's against the traditional values of marriage. But the traditional values of marriage have nothing to do with what a marriage is today.
Yeah. Marrying for love is like a recent invention.
Yeah, I mean...
like 1800s or something.
Traditionally, marriage is basically you buying a wife from her father.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the whole reason we have dowries and all that kind of stuff. But okay, let's leave the topic and let's move on to my topic, or one of my topics.
Okay.
I wish to talk about American exceptionalism. It is, after all, something. Is this the 5th today?
Yeah, America Day was yesterday.
The 5th of July. So
True facts.
America Day was yesterday.
Woo!
Which is a good time to talk about American exceptionalism. Okay. Are you familiar with the concept, Flippin?
I probably am, just not phrased as much, so I'd request an explanation.
It's basically that America is unique in everything it does. It is a shining beacon on the hill. It is, as a nation, it has basically exceptions put in place for it. So when America does something bad, it's not bad because America did it.
Okay.
Also, sort of like how American citizens or Americans, this sort of sense of nationalism that exists, where America #1, and even though it objectively isn't, America is still #1.
Okay, all right, yeah. Like I said, it's definitely something that I've noticed, but I just never called it. I just never saw it called American exceptionalism. I would argue
like a political philosophy, so I guess
I gotcha. Yeah. Like, there's so many different things that I had to say about this, and yeah, so I'm just gonna fire out a bunch of different things, and hopefully it kind of answers your questions. I think I'm incredibly lucky to have been born an American, given the opportunities that have been given to me, given the challenges that I faced, challenges I could have faced if I was growing up in the Philippines. That said, just because I would argue that I'm lucky, not blessed, not granted a God-given opportunity. All
right.
So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is that one of the biggest reasons we are still quote unquote #1, and I use that term very loosely because, as you mentioned, objectively that can be argued. And
yeah, it depends on what we're talking about.
Exactly. One of the biggest reasons.
Prison population.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
That said, like, definitely our military. The fact that the fact that we spend more than the next 10 countries on military defense combined.
I actually saw some numbers. This is like 10 years ago. That basically said the U.S. spends 1/2 of the world's military budget.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
So basically, the U.S. spends as much as literally every other country in the world put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it, and that's one of the biggest. But
that's sort of allows America to be exceptional because might makes right. I suppose.
Yes, exactly. Speak softly, carry big stick, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I argue that it's weird because the biggest reason we are the way we are right now, as far as militarily goes, is because of World War II. We had a whole nation of industry that was born A, out of a need for a military force, and B, out of the generosity of its people. A lot of people don't realize this, but I remember reading Flags of Our Fathers, and that's where I learned it first, is that 70 to 75% of the World War II war effort in America was funded by its citizenry. They paid the government, here, take my money, let's kick some. And
you don't mean taxes. You mean
no, like literal donations,
like war bonds, and
exactly.
Stuff.
Essentially, they essentially literally donated their own money to the war effort, and you definitely didn't see that in any of the wars subsequent.
Yeah, or previous.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, because of this massive influx of funding, we suddenly had a literal military machine.
Combined with the fact that America was barely touched by the war. I mean, aside from Pearl Harbor, I don't even know if there were any other bombings. Like, there was no infrastructure you guys had to rebuild from the ground up, like
essentially.
In Germany or in the UK. Etc.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, Japan took a couple of the Aleutian Islands, but
I thought you were going to say they took a couple of nukes.
No. I mean, they did, but
America didn't. Pearl Harbor, Japan, a couple of nukes.
Fair trade, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's really small fry, especially compared to America's population and land size.
Absolutely. And so what was left was, this rapid growth and the ability to tool ourselves up for anything and everything that we wanted to, and nobody really could touch us. And because we had this huge military might, it was just like, well, I guess we're the cops now. And, everybody turns to us like, oh, you have all this military power, please help us. And, I think what's happening now is that we are finally stretching ourselves too thin because we have relied on our own populace to carry us forward. And my argument is that our greatest strength is now truly becoming our greatest weakness, which is our diversity. Anybody and everybody can rally under a flag. But when everybody is rallying under separate flags, then rallying to the American flag, because everybody's like, "Oh, I'm an Irish American. I'm a whatever."
Oh yeah. And even like I'm a Texan first, American second.
Exactly. Like there's so many different sub rallying cries that we have no unified banner. That the flag just happens to be over us all. But like,
wasn't Texas going to secede a few years back?
It was known as the Lone Star State. Texas truly believes that if it came down to it, it could run itself as an independent country.
It probably could as well, depending on trade and that kind of stuff. But
no, but a couple of years ago, I actually heard talk about them wanting to secede.
Yeah, there's always talk about a lot of states wanting to secede.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I know what you mean, Anderson. I heard about it also, but basically it's loonies. Yeah. They can't they can't secede.
So it's just loonies getting too much green time.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so yeah, going back to what I mentioned, like now we kind of find ourselves in what I thought I was cool enough to coin it myself, but apparently not. I think somebody else, trademarked it or whatever. But we're in the waning days of the Pax Americana, which is the play on Pax Romana, which is the peace of Rome. The idea that when Rome
saying
ruled,
that America is now like the falling Roman Empire?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know when, but I do know that we have so many internal struggles while attempting to portray ourselves powerfully externally that we are going to implode.
Also, there are rising threats from Russia and China.
True facts.
Like, they're becoming real players. America has really been this shining city on a hill, but suddenly there's a bunch of fucking cranes and stuff building cities on the hills around you.
I mean,
and I would argue, like...
You could say that for a while America has actually been the only real superpower in the world.
Yeah, for a time being, and now the thing is, here's my argument thus far, based on what I know, which is a single individual living in with a very limited view of the world. Obviously, my thought is, I don't think we'll ever go toe to toe with Russia or China because while we have a technological advantage, China specifically has a person-to-person advantage. Like they could literally, if they wanted to, send every man, woman, child over and kill every man, woman, and child in the U.S. and still have more people. Like, just literal numbers, for starts.
But how long are we really still going to fight wars with populations, though?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the other thing, is just China has one incredibly large bargaining chip. Hey, America, remember all that money you owe us? We need that now.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
America bankrupt.
Coming back to the whole might makes right thing, America, I guess, could basically just say, well, you're not getting it back. Have a bomb.
And then Russia is like, oh my god, you bombed China. We'll bomb you.
Yeah.
And then the Mexican standoff devolves into just, nukes everywhere.
The Cold War goes hot, as it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about the whitewashing of American history, by the way? Basically, there's this tendency to gloss over the bad history, like slavery, the Native American segregation,
Japanese internment camps during
that kind of stuff.
I would argue that it's a shame. But I think, let me try and discuss this in two separate points. Firstly, history is history and should be portrayed as such, but I know that history is written by the victors. That's the first point. The second point is that when it comes down to it, it's wrong. Whitewashing, I've always been the kind of person who believes that the truth sets you free, for better and for worse. Like, for example, the biggest, if I ever have a kid, one of the stories I plan on telling him is how I did 125 miles an hour, which is like 109 kilometers an hour on a highway. Got pulled over. Is
that too much?
Oh, maybe that number's too high.
It's 180, 190.
Oh yeah. It goes upwards. Yeah. You're right.
So yeah, I was going stupid fast on the highway. Got pulled over. Ended up going in front of a judge. I told him I did exactly what I was doing. And, I went to the prosecutor, because we could, the town that I was in let me plea bargain it down. And I was completely honest with him. I was like, yeah, no, the ticket says I was doing 125. I was doing 125. I was stupid. I messed up. And I'm incredibly sorry. And he's like, I appreciate your honesty. I'm going to knock the ticket down to 85. No, he knocked it. I wish.
Now rot in jail, criminals. Come.
No, this is one of the few times where the system actually worked, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. But he's like, I'm going to take the ticket. I'm going to turn it into a 85 and a 60. And you're going to go on a defensive driving course. So the points that I earned from the ticket were wiped away. And I just had to pay a fine. Didn't have, anything crazy put on.
Wait, so what's the...
What would have happened if you just said, fuck you? Would they have revoked your license?
Well, let's see. I was actually racing at the time, so
wow.
Yeah, I was racing a buddy of mine, just living up to my Asian stereotype, I guess. Let's see. I remember I was trying to lawyer up by going to a library because Wikipedia and Wiki Law, I don't even know if that's a thing, was a thing yet. So I went to a library, looked up laws in New Jersey, and it's just like, wow, I could do jail time. I could do like 6 years, I think it was like 6 years in jail time and up to 100,000 in fines. But again, it's up to, like, that's what it goes up to. So basically I would have had to punch the judge, like, the moment he's like, so how do you feel about that? And just say, fuck you! And then hit him. Wait,
yeah. So what's the moral lesson you teach your kid from this story? I don't quite get
Honesty
it.
sets you free.
Be honest?
Yeah, the truth sets you free.
The truth?
Sometimes it's better to own up to your mistakes. The truth sets you free
is the... Oh, right, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, you know, what saddens me, too, is that I actually didn't learn about things like the Japanese internment camps. And, you know, I did learn a little bit about the Trail of Tears.
What do you mean you didn't learn about it? Isn't it in your fucking school curriculum?
Yeah, about that.
It gets glossed over if it's even brought up.
My point exactly.
The Trail of Tears, like, for example...
Really,
the Trail of Tears...
Is that the Andrew Jackson Indian stuff?
Yeah, like the Trail of Tears and how, like, we basically evicted the Indians from their own territory because of manifest destiny. We were supposed to go this way. And, you know, that whole idea.
And then forced them to walk 3,000 miles, which basically killed them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that was briefly talked about, but, I mean, you know, history in general, I feel, isn't really well taught, period, dot. At least in the U.S. And that's a shame. Because
history is so complex.
I actually feel like the whole idea of American exceptionalism, the whole idea that the U.S. can do no wrong, is at least partially rooted in the fact that rather than facing their own mistakes and facing the places where they were the bad guy, they launder the entire history into A, U.S. is always the good guy, no matter what, and B, try to answer me this, Flippin. In its own view, in its own heart, in the heart of its people, has the United States of America ever actually lost at anything? Because I believe the answer is no.
In its heart, I guess I would say no. I agree with you in that sense.
Even shit like Vietnam, where everything
objectively, Vietnam was a shit show.
Objectively, yeah. But you still pull out of it with the feeling of, yeah, we did some right. We don't help the people.
Yeah, the public conscious, like the general public. Oh, okay.
Can I just interject here?
Sure.
Which actually brings us to our next topic, the Middle East, specifically the Iraq War, the Afghan-Iraq War.
Silly Dopefish. Vietnam
always
Middle East.
Well, the discussion about how the war was won, even though it wasn't, is very applicable.
I agree. I can see where the transition's going here.
Mission accomplished? Question mark.
Yeah. It's weird being a member of the military during that period.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, this might be a sensitive topic for you because I feel like the wars were a big mistake. And that might be very difficult to hear being a service member. Like, what do you mean? Like, my friends went over there and died and you just think it was for nothing? Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And, I mean... I was lucky enough that I never really dealt with people that I knew dying. People have died after the fact. A couple of people have committed suicide. Some people I've known have died in combat, but not directly as a result of like the Iraq War. Like one of the people that I was trained that when I went through quote unquote basic, for anybody who's like American military or specifically Air Force, when I went through field training, one of our cadet training officers went on to go into the military, and he died in combat. And then most people actually notice it. I wear a bracelet on my right arm that I've worn since college, and it is a KIA bracelet, killed in action. So there's somebody that I remember from those. The marginalization of these lives obviously is a huge affront to everybody as a service member, but I would argue that at the same time you have to realize that the military and all militaries really are nothing more than just instruments of foreign policy. So I honestly don't take offense when people are like, oh, you're just tools for the government. It's like, actually, yeah, we are. And I always counter with, if you don't like the tools that your government is using, then you need to use your right to vote to change that. And I know that's a whole other argument about lobbying and okay, fine, got it.
There's a big rabbit hole we can go down there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would argue that...
Basically, when someone says the Iraq War is wrong, you take that as an indictment of the politicians, not an indictment of the servicemen.
Correct. At the same time, I won't deny that there are certainly servicemen who have made terrible mistakes. I remember there was a time when there was that video of one Marine, I think it was. There was a American service member who threw the dog. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
nothing really against troops. That's just a guy being a dick.
Yes, agreed. But again,
if he was in the U.S., he might have done it as well.
But
I don't know if the culture of sort of the brutality of military breeds that kind of person, but.
Yeah, another rabbit hole. But my argument is they are wearing the uniform, therefore they are clearly a representation of America at large.
Yeah,
and it's just but that's not the reality.
Yeah, it's much worse than when a soldier does it than a citizen does it.
Correct.
That's true.
Honestly, I feel that's reasonable to a certain point. I feel like when you're wearing your country's military uniform while you have it on, you should be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Because
I would argue. Well, I mean, I agree, but I actually take it a step further. Patton had a quote: "You are always on parade." I still to this day I tend to be very careful about what I say because at some point they know, especially in America, and this is part of the I'm kind of jumping topics, but I won't really mention with the next topic in general. But
you're welcome to.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't even talked about the Middle East yet. So that said, I won't get into that yet. The thing is, at some point here, particularly in America, we're known by what we do. Mm-hmm. It's not just like this person; it's this policeman, this hate murderer, this whatever. It's like American service member said America sucks, and it's just like no, this was just the opinion of some random 30-year-old dude.
It reflects poorly on everybody when one person does it, I suppose.
Exactly. So go
ahead.
So I mean, for me, the whole thing circling back is just the Iraq War. Looking back, I would say mission accomplished in the sense that we did something. But I do agree that the question mark is there, as in, what exactly did we do?
And after you had done something, why stay?
Yeah.
And then now ISIS.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like okay, Saddam is a horrible dictator. If you want to overthrow him and try to get democracy into the country, that's kind of a
noble goal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it might be a bit naive or whatever, but it's a noble goal, and once that's done, you stay in the Middle East and just sort of police it, and things just keep devolving, and your presence there isn't helping.
Right. And
when you use a drone strike to kill a terrorist,
mm-hmm.
and you accidentally hit a wedding or something,
right?
You've now just made 400 new terrorists because all of those people will hate America.
Right.
Will hate the people who killed their grandmother.
Right. Absolutely. It was a horrible idea. Again, before I get black bagged for saying this, these are purely the opinions of an individual and do not reflect that of the United States government and or military. Please don't shoot me. It was a horrible idea to send in a military force with the idea of win their hearts and minds.
Yeah.
With fire, a lot of people apparently, somebody mentioned during an interrogation, an Iraqi captive mm-hmm. mentioned that they were terrified of us because we looked like Terminators. Literal Terminators, clad in our body armor and our weapons and our weapon systems that we brought to the fight.
Yeah,
we looked like futuristic killing machines.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to help you.
Yeah, that's.
I actually feel like almost something like the Iraq War could have gone better if you'd been a bit more cowboy about it. Just ride in, fuck up the bad guys, and then leave. That might actually have turned out better.
It would have been chaotic for a while, but perhaps we wouldn't have ISIS. I don't know. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's
there's
the thing,
so many
too.
complexities down there as well. Like Iraq is not a country. It was made by the British, and it's
Same
not
with
a country.
Israel.
Yeah, well, Israel is a bit different. Because at least the people of Israel belong to Israel. They like to think of Israel as a thing.
Right,
but
exactly.
in Iraq, there's Sunni and there's Shia, and then there's the Kurds.
And they were all placed in the same spot, and
it's like the government is Shia or Sunni, I don't know which one, and they refuse to help the Sunnis. It's like when ISIS came, like they wouldn't send out any military to protect them because they're not part of our group.
Right.
They might live in a place called Iraq, but they're not citizens of our state.
Right.
They belong to the wrong group.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing in and of itself. Like the Middle East itself is just a huge
clusterfuck.
Yes.
It's
a clusterfuck for us Westerners, but for them inside it makes perfect sense. I have my people. I keep to my people. Those people away are evil.
Still,
it's actually a surprisingly well-functioning collection of small medieval states.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, somebody...
but then somebody gives them nukes to play with and things go wrong.
And, like... Or somebody mentioned it. It was just like, Dubai is the result of putting rich people with no responsibility in the middle of the desert.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Like the Burj Khalifa, man-made islands that represent the world, and all those different things.
They're so fucking filthy rich. It's so disgusting.
It's just like, how did you... What?
Yeah, there was one of the princes there. Recently, they had like fighter pilots fighting ISIS. I think.
Yeah,
like
one of the kings actually. Yeah, the king of Jordan was just like, "Yeah, I'm going to do something."
Yeah, yeah, and he just like gave luxury cars to all of them or something like that. I think. Like. This is just something he can do because he's so filthy rich.
Yeah, and like, but in return, I think they're also very savvy because somebody mentioned this to me. Is just like, sure, the biggest reason they're doing all this extravagance is because they understand that at some point the oil is going to run out, and the only thing they will have is tourism. So they have to draw somebody somehow.
They have to have the prestige,
right?
I suppose, in a way.
And it's just like, wow, look at this massively tall building. You can go all the way to the top and have dinner on the top of the world. And it's like, wow, that's pretty badass.
It's the reason why Qatar wants the World Cup.
Yeah.
As well, like to get tourism and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, we're getting way off topic. Flippin, I want to ask you about a more divisive issue, I think.
Okay.
Because I honestly think that sort of public opinion about the Iraq war has kind of turned to the point where people want to pull out the troops. Like, they want to get out of there. But yeah, I want to talk about Israel and Palestine. Where do you stand on the issue or on the situation?
If you think
you mentioned briefly that Israel isn't the real country before, is that something that you want to like expand on?
Yes, absolutely. Israelis, or hang on, hold on. How do I want to word this? Because I'm going to get myself. I'm basically going to get myself killed today.
Take a moment to think about it, and I'll ask Andersen.
Yeah. All right.
Andersen. Yeah. Do you know the situation?
Ish.
Okay. So there's Israel, which is the Jewish state.
Which was established in, what, 48?
Yeah, something like that, after World War II. And then there's the Palestine. There's Palestine, which isn't a state, but sort of an area inside Israel, where they are still Muslim, mostly. And Israel is occupying Palestine, and Palestine is bombing Israel. It's kind of a complicated knot, but yeah, it has to do with basically they feel like they were forced off their land when Israel was there, because there were Arabs living there, and they've been sort of marginalized now, and then now they've been pushed into almost like a ghetto.
Yeah, that's
called Palestine.
Pretty much what I feel. I feel at this point it might be literally unfixable without
so what do you do
without taking one side or the other and genociding them. I think they're yeah, it's a horrible solution. It's a terrible thing, but I think that anything short of that, there would still be conflicts, because I think at this point everyone's so butthurt that it might never be able to be fixed. Yeah. But I feel like.
But do you think that is the optimal solution, though? Like, should one of the sides be fucking slaughtered? Can't there be conflicts and sort of have this?
I really don't feel like it's a good idea to set a precedent of using genocide as a solution. I mean, it's worked very well in ancient history, but I feel like maybe we're supposed to have gotten past that now.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I mean,
it's just, I have to point it out to our listeners and everything. It's always a bit awkward talking about genocide when we're talking about the Jewish state, just because of the Holocaust. It's like
absolutely
there's an extra layer of like salt or whatever you wanna call it.
Yeah, but really, can we just look past that and have a normal conversation? That's one of the things. I mean, I have problems with Jews. And one of my problems with Jews is that you basically can't disagree with a Jew or say anything against a Jew, because then you're an anti-Semite. If you know a Jewish guy and he's a fucking asshole and you call him a fucking asshole, that makes you an anti-Semite.
Yeah, you're only hating him because he's Jewish.
No, I'm hating him because he's a fucking asshole.
No, you anti-Semite.
Exactly. But yeah,
it's like feminists.
You asked if I knew the situation.
You can't say anything against the women.
You asked if I knew the situation. Let me just really, really crudely draw up the situation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Palestinians, or whatever they were called then. Yeah. No, actually, let's start with this. Jews live in Israel in biblical times, like in the year fuck all. Yeah. Then they leave and spread all over everywhere, mainly Europe. Then some other guys go and live in the Israel area for 2,000 years. Yep. Then World War II, a lot of really nasty shit happens to the Jews that they really didn't ask for and didn't deserve, because nobody deserves that. Everybody feels sorry for the Jews and go, well, you lived in this place 2,000 years ago. Why do we say you can have it back so you're not citizens in someone else's land? And
kind of. There's also a biblical or a Torah aspect to that, where it's the promised land.
Please don't tell me that they actually involved religious scripture in the forming of international policy.
That's why they
totally did.
That's the whole reason that Israel is where it is.
Okay, here's my solution. Bomb all of everything.
It's the whole Zionist movement, where Zion is like the promised
not
state
not just Israel, not just Europe. Bomb all of everything.
Bomb everything. All right, Flippin, you've had some time to think it over. What are your thoughts on the situation?
My thoughts are, I approach it from one stance where, like, one of the biggest analogies that I've given to people is that if you imagine the world's countries as being in a party. Israel is that dude that seems nice enough but has a hair trigger, and something goes off, and all of a sudden they're like, yo, you want to go, bro? You want to fucking go? You want to fucking go? Let's go! And the U.S. has to, like, butt in, and she's like, bro, it's good. Chill. Just relax. Put the knife down. Relax. Pick up your beer. We're fine. And in some ways, Israel is...
But that doesn't seem accurate at all. The U.S. is more like, yeah, bro, let's fucking go, and then you hand Israel a knife.
We did, and then we realized what we've done, and now we're trying to keep them in check. Because here's the thing, from my perspective, again, lone individual, Israel is pretty much the only country in that area that's still willing to talk to us even half nicely.
Yeah, that's true. They're one of your biggest allies.
Exactly. Like, and so Israel then is just like, well, we're being backed by the biggest world power, so we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. Fuck your shit. And the U.S. is like, nah, bro, that's not how that goes.
Dude, seriously.
So, are you talking recently? Are you saying, like, the Obama administration recently? Or, recently, 10 years recently?
I would say from, like, yeah, probably, well, maybe a little bit less than 10 years. Like, 5 to 10 years is kind of what I feel has kind of been the attitude. Because the fact of the matter is, again, Israel is our only real, true foothold down there. But, you know... Yeah. At the same time, they're also trying to do a lot more than we're willing to support, and that's all
Saudi Arabia, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, and so what you're having there, like, so from a political standpoint, that's what I've noticed. From a religious standpoint, religion, like, as good as religion is, it's also really horrible. Because. Who mentioned it? It's essentially a bread and circuses for the soul.
What?
Bread and circuses. You know, the whole idea that, like Rome, it's just like, oh, the populace is, freaking out and there's going to be riots. It's like, just give them bread and circuses and they'll be fine.
Yeah. So, I think Karl Marx said it was opium for the soul.
Possibly. And that, like I said, that's why I didn't quote a name to it. But the idea of hey, if you pray 5 times a day towards the east, or hey, if you say the Our Father and 10 Hail Marys and a Glory Be, or hey, if you don't eat pork, you're going to be saved. It's like,
yeah.
I like,
which is okay. Well, these are like personal rituals. If you want to do them. Who the fuck cares?
Right.
But then suddenly it's like,
I don't.
Sky Fairy says that this is my land, so I'm gonna go into a car and like put a bomb to myself.
Yeah.
Drive into your church and blow myself up.
Religion is the society version of the tailbone.
I don't know what that means exactly.
It's there, but was incredibly useful for us when we were like small primates and we actually had tails. It really helped our development, and we probably wouldn't have gotten as far as we are without it. And now it's just a vestigial, useless piece of shit clinging to our butt. Religion has been found to have been incredibly helpful in the early forming of societies when we were really primitive hominids. And now, well, it's this useless piece of shit clinging to our butt.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. But,
I would go further.
I really like that analogy. Did you make that up or did you quote someone? Because that's fucking brilliant.
Half and half.
All right. Well, fair enough.
I picked the idea.
Wanted to respond, I think.
I've always had to argue. Like, for those who know me, my first name's Darwin, and it's great because I'm a Roman Catholic, or at least raised Roman Catholic, and they're kind of at odds with each other. But I've always argued.
Did you just imply that you're no longer Catholic?
I haven't been to church in years.
That doesn't matter. Do you have a personal relationship with God?
The really important thing to find out if you're Catholic or not is: are you ashamed of yourself?
Well, let's put it this way, Anderson. I don't cry when I beat it, so I guess not. But I mean, like in my head, I've become less religious and more spiritual. But I would also argue that, back to the first point, my whole idea is that in order for religion to maintain some level of relevance in today's world, it needs to evolve.
Hey-yo!
But
I mean, creationists and so on are just living in the past in a world that doesn't. It's not true. It doesn't work like that.
And this is why I had an interesting discussion with one of my friends. You're right. It doesn't work like that. And what does work like that, where when facts are introduced, then the reality changes. Science. And my argument, and the argument, or the realization that the both of us came to while we were driving around, was that science is the new religion, and Isaac and Einstein are our new prophets.
I very strongly disagree.
Religion is originally trying to figure out how the world works in very primitive ways. Science is just an updated version of that.
I also disagree with that. Okay. I think a religion is trying to dictate how the world works. It makes up how the world works and then sticks to it.
I don't think it started like that.
It didn't start like that, no, of course not. But if we're talking like Christianity or something like that, especially in the modern era.
Right, it's gotten to the point where this is how it has to be.
It was people seeing a sunrise and they didn't understand it, so they made up a story about how Ra, the sun god, etc., etc. But I think science is the opposite of religion. It's not dogmatic. When someone proves you wrong in science, you change your mind. Like, things update and they change.
Well, like
when someone proves you wrong in religion, no, that doesn't happen. You can't be proven wrong.
But Dope, let me throw this out then. Like, this is what I mean by evolution. Like, I think on some level, if you look at the current Pope, I think he's kind of making very moderate steps, and I mean moderate in the political sense.
For a Pope, he's like super progressive leftist commie Marxist.
Exactly, which is huge because, like I said, evolution in religion is going to be necessary for it to maintain its relevance in a world that has already lost itself.
With that. I mean, if Christianity keeps talking about how the world is 6,000 years old and climate change doesn't matter because we can't harm God's perfect world, then that's like literally harmful and it has to evolve. And now the Pope is talking about how we are the stewards of the earth and we have to take care of it and prevent things like climate change.
Right. So maybe that's too harsh of a phrasing when I was saying that science is the new religion, but if you kind of meet me in the middle here,
like that Isaac Newton is the prophets, that kind of stuff, but they're not worshipped. Isaac Newton he believed in alchemy. He was from the 1700s. He believed a lot of things that were so wrong that nobody cares about anymore. But if you take somebody like Muhammad or something, he married like a 9-year-old, and people defend that because I mean, he did things that were wrong, but nobody cares because he's the infallible prophet of God.
Whoa. Are you saying it's wrong to marry a 9-year-old?
I fucking knew it.
I need to call my lawyer. Hold on.
You told me this was gonna be okay.
I feel like the point Flippin is trying to make is, and the point that I feel also, is that science is doing what religion originally tried to do. It's just doing it much better because it's taking a sane approach to it.
Definitely, it has.
And that's what we mean when we
since,
say
the
that science is the new
something.
religion.
Like, we now explore the world and try to figure out how it works instead of making shit up.
Well, that was the best research they could do back then.
Yeah. That's true,
and
though, for
that's why I really
like mythology and all that kind of stuff.
That's why I
like
really feel like religion, in the traditional sense, is vestigial. We don't need it anymore as a species. But my views are pretty much the stereotype of the euphoric atheist.
Yeah. We don't need religion to explain the world anymore, but perhaps people personally need religion for their own comfort and hope and sense of society and morality, etc., etc.
Yeah, let's get into that some other time, shall we?
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm prone to get ranty about shit.
So
like that.
we were talking about Israel and Palestine.
And the
Flippin,
reason we
to wrap this up, can I just ask you like a couple of simple questions?
Sure.
Does Palestine have a right to exist as a nation?
If it so chooses, sure.
Does Israel?
Again, same reasoning.
And
Nope.
No, I'm pretty much done. That's all I wanted to know. So you're basically in favor of a two-state solution?
I am, because as much as I think glassing the entire area would probably be the path of least resistance, it's also the path of least sanity. But again, sanity is very, very relative as well.
Can I just say that I love that term?
Glassing? Yeah, it's great.
Actually, and
I assume it means that the sand gets so hot that it just turns
from the
into
nuclear
glass.
explosions.
At least when you're talking on this scale, there's also glassing. Like if someone annoys you in a bar, you smash a glass in his face. That's also
that's also a thing. Absolutely.
So they're basically both terms for like extreme overreactions with violence.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm definitely in favor of a two-state solution. I can't pretend to know all the intricacies of the area. And
actually, fuck it. Why be stingy? Let's have a 3-state solution.
What's the third
5-state. Any higher? Any bids?
Five. Do I hear 6?
Oh, you could always move like Louisiana and Texas down there.
Here 3. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's move on.
Okay.
Flippin, you have a guest topic.
I do have a guest topic
to discuss, but before that, I think we're gonna do my mystery topic.
Ooh.
I'm gonna quiz you guys. I hope you're ready to answer some questions.
I'm gonna win this because I studied for this.
How's that? What?
You don't even know what it's about.
For mysteries. When were you a cop?
I read a lot of mystery novels, you dumb shit.
I watched Scooby-Doo.
I read forensic novels.
Yeah, I watched a lot of CSI. No, so none of you guys know what this is about. But I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna ask Andersen first, and only if he doesn't know, I'll ask Flippin. Okay. Because these are questions about America.
Oh,
America.
Okay.
I actually saw this coming.
Time to show how much of a shit
you did
American
see it coming.
I am.
Yeah, it was pretty
but
obvious.
I didn't study for it.
Good. All right, Andersen. What are the first 3 words of the Constitution? Flippin.
We the people.
Correct. Andersen, name one right or freedom from the First Amendment.
From the First Amendment, the right to free speech.
Yes, speech. Flippin, bonus point here. Do you wanna take another one of the ones that exist?
Religion.
Yes, correct.
Yay.
What, Andersen? What did the Declaration of Independence do?
The Declaration of Independence declared the United States of America to be an independent nation.
Independence from?
From Britain?
Yes,
no, or England.
True
I'm
facts.
actually not sure about that. It's one or the other.
There's actually a really interesting infographic that explains it all, but yes.
Yeah. Andersen, what are 2 of the rights mentioned in the Declaration of Independence?
No, I don't know it that well.
Flippin?
The right to... Well, one of the things that we've initially addressed was taxation without representation. So the right for its people to tax itself, I think, was one of them. No,
the right to
so.
That might be part of it, but these are personal rights that are granted to all the peoples of the land in the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
And by
it's
all
life,
the peoples
liberty,
of
and the pursuit
land,
of
they
happiness.
White landowners.
Yes, Flippin is right. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yep. Of course, only to white male landowners.
Wasps.
All right, Andersen, what do we mean when we say the rule of law?
That it's kind of self-evident, the rule of law, that it's ruled through law, that when the things are determined on a lawful basis.
Okay, there's something specific about it, though, that has to do with the people.
Tried by a jury of their peers? Is that what you're fishing for?
No, okay. Flippin, do you know the answer to this?
I was actually going in the same direction as Andersen. The only thing that I could possibly think of is that the rule, England was ruled by monarchy in the sense that the king is the god.
America is ruled by the rule of law. What does that mean?
It's ruled by the rules of by the laws of man as put down by man for man.
Okay, kind of. The definition here, or what it's getting at, is that everyone must follow the law. Leaders must obey the law. The government must obey the law, and nobody is above the law. That is the rule of law.
Okay.
See, that's something so obvious that I would never have thought to put that as an answer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Andersen, name one branch or part of the U.S. government.
Legislative.
Correct. A bonus point, Flippin?
Executive.
Correct. Okay, Andersen, what stops one of the branches from government from becoming too powerful? There is a term for it. Or two terms,
Division of power? No.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to give you that one. It's called separation. Of powers, but yes. Also, checks and balances.
Yes. That was a bonus point for me.
That's true, sorry. Andersen, who makes federal laws?
Who makes federal laws? The government.
It's too vague.
The legislative branch of the government?
That's still too vague.
The Senate?
Wrong. Well, actually, yes, the Senate does. The Senate and the House.
Yes.
Congress.
Congress. Correct.
Yes.
Which I think legislative actually works, because that is...
Yeah, that's true, but it doesn't list it in the list of acceptable answers on this thing, so...
Oh.
Well, fuck your thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering what this thing is, because it clearly needs to be edited.
It's uscis.gov, citizenship.
Oh, this is actually the citizenship test?
It's part of the citizenship
They are
test.
never letting me in.
And Andersen, how many U.S. senators are there?
I know the correct answer, but it's not going to be accepted. Too many. Actually, shouldn't it be 50?
No, wrong. You're on the right track, but you're Flippin?
100.
Yes, there are 2 for each state, Andersen.
And then representatives are counted.
You know what? I actually knew that, because I asked Flippin about how the Senate and Congress work some time ago, and he explained it, and he actually told me that. I just couldn't remember it.
But yeah. Alright.
Okay, Andersen, what is the name of the vice president of the U.S. right now?
Muhammad Lee.
Wrong. Flippin.
Joe Biden.
Okay, do you want to go for bonus points? What's his full name?
Oh. I'll lose that, so pass.
Is Joseph R. Biden Jr.
No, R is R his part of his full name? Does he actually have the letter R as a middle name?
Okay, a couple more, then we'll wrap this up. Andersen, under our constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one of these powers?
Blank.
Alright, Flippin?
I have space for a second. You said...
some powers belong to the states under the constitution. What is one of these powers? The powers of the states.
Oh, boy. Maintaining their own militia, I think, is one of them, maybe? I don't know.
Perhaps, but it's not listed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to read through them. Provide schooling and education, provide protection, police, safety, fire departments, driver's licenses, and approve zoning and land use.
Yeah, I would not have gotten that one.
Okay, Flippin. No, sorry. Okay, actually, Andersen. Who is the governor of New Jersey?
We mentioned him.
You mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, that's why
I can't remember. Muhammad Lee.
It's Chris Christie.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll do one more. Let's see if I can find a good one. Okay, I'm not sure why this is on here, but it makes sense. Okay, two more. Andersen, what did the Emancipation Proclamation do?
It's basically outlawed slavery, freed the slaves.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. I don't listen to hip-hop.
Final question, Andersen.
Yeah.
What did Susan B. Anthony do?
Wasn't she a main component in the women's suffrage movement?
Correct. She fought for women and civil rights.
It's only appropriate, Andersen. Only appropriate.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. There are lots of more questions, but some of them are really boring. But I just felt like that was a thing that we needed to do July 4th through the citizenship test.
It was only fair.
Yeah. Alright, so Flippin, we have your topic left to do. What are we gonna talk about?
Okay, so the easiest way to talk about this topic is to explain my observations. And these observations are stemming from my 3 weeks in Europe.
Is that the only time you've been out of the US?
No. Well, I was in a territory. I've been in the Philippines twice. Then I was in Guam, which, I mean, it's an American territory, so I don't necessarily think that counts. But then I spent 3 weeks in Europe. I pretty much circumnavigated the continent, more or less. I went to, and I was lucky enough to basically couch surf with a lot of members of the dope community. So,
all right. Sorry, we did meet, which was very pleasant. But your observation in Europe.
Yes. Okay. My observation in Europe. I'm a foodie. I like food. I like to eat. Thing is, when I went,
American.
Yes, when I went to restaurants all across Europe, one of the things that I noticed was generally shitty service. But that is coming from...
That's because American service is crazy.
But yes, it is insane. And the reason why is because of tipping. Mm-hmm. The concept of tipping, for those who don't know, is the idea
that...
that...
about tipping hats here.
Just in case.
It's also called gratitude expense or something like that,
yes,
I think.
Something like that.
Paying gratitude. You're giving people a gift because they did a good job.
Yes. Essentially, here in the U.S., people who work in the food service industry as waiters, waitresses, servers, however PC you want to be about it, they get a ridiculously low wage that they will never see and live entirely off of the generosity of the people who come into their restaurant. So the tips basically are what keep them going.
Which I have so many problems with, but I don't want to talk about it right now.
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The observation that I got was, again, because of this need to live off of tips, I've always found, for the most part, American servers to be much more responsive, much more attentive, and much faster in their service than what I experienced while I was in Europe. Counter to that, though, in some ways, I pulled it back out further, and I was just like, well, maybe this is indicative of our societies in general. In the U.S., I've always felt that anything and everything you do is already late. You should have done this like 10 minutes ago. This should have been done before. You need to get it done now. Hurry it up. It needs to be done now.
Do you think that's American society or your life?
Maybe it's the East Coast life. Like in the Northeastern.
Yeah, you see films and people, films and such, and they have similar things, I guess.
You know, and so, like, that kind of idea is tied into how food service works here in the U.S. My argument has always been, or the argument that I'm presenting forward is, like, here in the U.S., when you go on a date with somebody, or if you're hanging out with someone, it's always just going to be dinner and blank. Dinner and a movie, dinner and a show, dinner and bowling, dinner and sex. Whatever it's going to be, you dine, and it's part of the itinerary of the date.
Okay.
When I was in Europe...
Is that true even for, like, first dates?
I've kind of noticed that. In some cases, it's just dinner and that's it. You know, dinner and the trip back home. You know, depending on how young you are, I guess, you know. But, like, when I was in Europe, like, for example, when I was in the Netherlands with sea cucumber, Ezid, begonia bowl, kips, and I think that was it. Yeah. We were at a restaurant for 3 hours. We just sat there, BS'd, joked, talked, drank, ate. But the majority of the time was spent not eating. We were just hanging out. Like, from what I've seen and observed, it's just like, the dinner is the date. Like, everything is contained there because you're more prepared to talk, you're more prepared to discuss, you're more prepared to just let the experience of sitting down and talking with someone be the date, rather than, okay, we're going to eat here, we'll talk about our meal, and then we're going to go see a show, we're going to do a thing, and then we'll, talk about that. Like, I don't know, I feel it's like, again, first off, my observations between American and European world culture is that Americans are very rapid. Europeans tend to be, we're going to get it done, but we're going to do it on our own schedule. And, that's how that's going to be, and you're going to like it. American culture is very driven on activity. Like, we like doing a lot of things. Like I said, dinner and a movie, dinner and things. Europe is very content.
Wait, like, if you have like a birthday, do you never get taken out to dinner by your family, like that kind of stuff?
We do.
Just dinner?
We do. At least in my family, what I've noticed is just we're just gonna go out for dinner and we're gonna come home. But again, Filipinos kind of different. Fair enough. If you want to think about the quote unquote portrayal of America, then I feel like maybe we're a little off. And who knows? Maybe observations of a single guy. Yeah. I might be entirely wrong. But that was one of the things that I noticed. And again, all this stemmed from the fact that service in Europe is shitty compared to what Americans perceive to be the quality service experience.
So what's an example of bad service, do you mean? Like, people, they're like, you call for a waiter and they don't come, or they're like rude to you, or what?
Well, for starters, everybody was like, one of the experiences that stood out in my mind is that for the most part in the US, the first server that greets you is your server, because you are tipping that server, and it's easier to identify my tips, as in the tips that I earned, because this is my table. When I was in Prague, I had 5 different people come up to me, "How was your meal?" And I'm just like, who do I tip? What's going on? But then, like, again, at the same time, in the back of my mind, exactly,
is the answer.
In the back of my mind is like, I don't have to tip, so this is fine. But
that makes sense. I mean, in America, you want to build a personal relationship with you,
right?
Because it's much easier to basically extract money from you when they have this.
Hey, this is a nice guy. He was, he's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets me his beer on time.
Whatever. Or like, this girl had a nice smile and she was pleasant to me, and she gave me coffee. So does that? Do you mean that that's bad? Did you miss that? Because you said that's shitty service. Is that
bad? I don't know if shitty service is the right phrasing. It's different service, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
In my head, it's just like, I'm expecting one person to take care of me start to finish, and I'm expected to be out the door in 45 to an hour. Otherwise, I'm taking up their space.
Man, 45 to an hour? Food has barely arrived.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, that's the thing. Again, very rapid. Like, we're here for our food. We're here to get out. Ideally, like, as a server, I was trained. Ideally, you should turn your tables every 45 minutes to an hour. So 2 guests come in, or however many guests come into your table. You get them drinks, you get them their food, you get them dessert if they want it, and you get them out the door in 45 or better. And, again, going to Europe, it's just like, wow, I've been here 2 hours. I'm having a great time, but I'm just like, in the back of my mind, I'm just like, if I was in the US, if I was serving us, I'd be so pissed right now, because I haven't gotten anything for you guys for the past hour. I'm not getting any money, and I'm losing money because there are people sitting where I would be making money off people who would be sitting elsewhere, ordering new stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although you wouldn't have that table. That wouldn't be your table. You'd just be serving the restaurant.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's just a different world where, like...
Yeah.
I worked
in some
in a
ways...
restaurant. You know what we did? You know what we did with tips? Every tip that came in got put into the same jar, and then the tip money was split between all the servers, the kitchen staff, and even the people doing the washing up. Because the guy who had the restaurant was of the philosophy that people tip if they've had a good experience, and the entire crew are the people involved in providing that good experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was very motivating.
And that's kind of different here in the US. Pooled tipping is a thing, but generally it's between just the servers and the bussers. For those not in the know, bussers are the people who clean up your table after you, or while you're eating. Like, you finish a plate and there's nothing left, you push it to the side, it disappears. Busser did that. So it's the servers, the bussers, and the food runners. Again, for those not in the know,
I think food runners is self-explanatory.
Yeah, food comes up. If the server's not bringing it out, food runners bring it to you. So we split. So normally places that do pool tipping split it between those three people, or however they do it. Sometimes it's just the servers, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You know,
But I mean, this is a part of, or like part of the reason for this is that you guys have such shit wages that you couldn't.
It's kind of the snake that eats its own tail, because people say you have to tip because they get so low wages, they rely on the tips to live. But then on the other hand, you have people saying, well, that's why we give them so low wages, because they live off the tips. Honestly,
and you can argue it.
Have both of you guys watched Reservoir Dogs?
Yes.
If you rewatch it,
it's been a while,
you watch Mr. Pink's little speech on tipping. That basically sums up my stance.
Yeah, agreed.
It's been a while, but I mean,
customary tipping isn't a thing here. You don't tip. You tip if the service has been extraordinary well. But in America, if you don't tip, you're a dickhead. Like, even if your service has been bad or mediocre or whatever, if you don't leave a tip, you're basically starving the waitress.
Even more than that, at least this is my perception from TV, because this has come up several times in like sitcoms. Is like, if someone tips and then people are like, oh, he only tipped so and so, he only tipped 12%. What a humongous asshole.
Wow, he tipped $3 and a $50 bill. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And also, America, you tip delivery men and stuff like that, taxi drivers and stuff like that.
Haircutters,
taxi, actually,
barbers.
Yeah. There's so many professions you tip. We don't here at all.
Right. And it's a very interesting mentality that gets brought into culture at large. Like, again, the whole idea, at least from a person who's been in the industry, my approach has always been, I am reliant on you, the guest, to make sure that I still have a roof over my head. Because of that,
more directly than just the fact that the restaurant needs money.
Yeah, just than their patronage. You specifically, you sitting in my section are going to pay my bills, and so I need to take care of you the best I can.
I mean, I suppose there is something good about that, about how the service is. You get really service-minded when you're relying on the person to really like feed you.
Correct. And that's one thing for a person who is capable of providing that level of service. And I was lucky that I can multitask and I can move quickly and do everything. But I know some people who, fell behind and, would get weeded, and it devolved, and so they ended up hating people in general. Not to say that spending any time in the food service industry will make you hate people, because it does, but
good. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So for me, it's just like, that's my approach to it. But I know some people not know some people, but like observing people in Europe, it's just like, I'm covered. I'm going to get paid no matter what I do, so I will just coast.
That's true.
That's my observation. That was my approach and my observation.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'm sure there are people who basically think like that it doesn't really matter how I do my job, I have a steady paycheck anyway, it doesn't matter, and the tips will get split anyway, so the Lena is taking a shitload of bringing in a shitload of tips, that's perfect, because I'm getting half of it anyway. Right,
and so I just can coast as well.
Yeah, which is...
I don't know. Where I worked, that would basically have gotten you fired after a few weeks.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate, and what I appreciate about the story you mentioned, Andersen, is that the tips were shared by everybody. I like that concept a lot more than the tipping program that I've noticed commonly throughout the U.S. Is that, like you said, the entire experience is brought to you by everybody under the roof. It's not just the servers who gave you a smile. It's just not the food runners who brought your food out in a timely manner. It's not the bussers who just cleaned your plate when it's done. The cooking staff, the hosts, the bartender, everybody had a part in making your experience as enjoyable as it was, and that resulted in you getting a tip.
We had two people at the restaurant who didn't get any of the tips.
And they were?
The owners.
The owner? Yeah, that's I would have guessed that easily. Yeah. I would just like to make a comment about the restaurant experience you had, Flippin.
Sure.
Because in my limited restaurant going experience, there's basically two different kinds of restaurants here. When I take someone out for dinner and the movie, we basically go to like almost like a fast food place. Like you get a pizza or something like that, and then you go to the movie afterwards. And that it's a 30-minute kind of thing. And then there's like the actual sit-down dinner places, which are very expensive, and basically you take people out for. I don't know if you'd go there for a date, maybe, but like birthdays and celebrations, that kind of stuff. Like graduation, you go there, and that's the kind of like 3-hour place. Okay. So I don't know if there's that kind of split exists in the US in the same way.
It does and it doesn't.
I mean, it's not like you go to McDonald's. That's totally different. But there's like second grade and like top grade restaurants.
There's definitely super fine. I don't know if that's the right term. There's like fine dining and then there's casual dining. But casual dining even feels like it essentially bridges the gap between casual and fine dining, because like the restaurant I worked at is considered casual dining, and yet we catered like. One of the restaurants, we had enough space where I was actually catering to staff lunches, corporate lunches. We did like a wedding rehearsal for like 50 people. So like it's weird in that fine dining does exist here, but it's almost like those big events that you were talking about are really reserved for even casual dining. And again, I don't really do too much.
Like the kind of the sort of 3-hour diner or whatever that I talked about. That's kind of like the place you dress up to go to,
Right, exactly.
Like the women are wearing dresses and men are not maybe wearing tuxedos, but you'd like shirts. They're
right.
They're
button
made
up
up.
shirt, little jacket,
t-shirt, and jeans.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird because I've seen not necessarily super dressed up, but certainly they took some effort into what they were going to wear before they walked out the door. Dates at my restaurants, like the 2 restaurants that I worked at. So I mean,
you didn't work at like Domino's or something.
No, absolutely not. I didn't work at like a Pizza Hut that has a dine-in function or whatever. Like I would actually argue those are like super casual dining, and I don't know if that's an actual
like
technical term.
Kinda...
Yeah, it's like true fast food dining, but like at the same time, like you think about burger joints here, like I mean. Red Robin, which is like just literally just burgers and shakes and stuff like that. They have a sit down kind of deal where you have a server, but like that's super fast food.
I mean, you definitely don't get a server here in a pizzeria or at a burger place at all.
Right,
it doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, and yet
you go to a counter, you order. Then once the food comes, you go to the counter and you get your food, and then you eat it.
Right, and I mean, but we actually have burger joints that kind of work like. You have a server, they will get you drinks, and it's
and like with a menu and stuff, like they come over and like that doesn't exist at all here, as far as I know, at least.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I said, in my head,
it's a very different food culture. It's
and then my argument.
So do you think that extends over to the rest of culture as well, about how we approach work and stuff like that in general?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some merit to it. I mean, America is where fast food was born for a reason, and the drive-through, etc., etc. People are always trying to get somewhere or do something.
Like I always approached it from the reverse angle. Like when I was in college, there was a point where I was, a full-time student. So I think I had like 12 credits. I was in the ROTC preparing to go into the military. I was part of a nonprofit organization, and then I was working at a restaurant. Like it's just like, this was norm for me. Waking up and I was late to something was just like, well, that's just who I am. And. It's just
Andersen, do you have any thoughts about how maybe we can apply food culture to the rest of culture?
Not really. I mean, it's...
Do you disagree with what we're saying?
No, not really, because everybody eats, so it's... I don't think...
Everybody eats? What kind of comment is this?
I don't think that there's any way food culture could not become like a central part of culture in general.
That's actually a really good
because everybody eats, so it's a thing for everyone. Not everyone goes bowling, to take an example. Not everyone plays sports, not everyone plays video games, but everybody eats and shits.
It's true.
So to toilets and like restaurants.
Look at how
significant.
In quotation marks weird the Japanese are because if they have automated toilets. I mean, I think we do have some toilet culture as well.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Like honestly,
like India, they have those like squatting bowls and stuff like that.
Yeah, just
it's true.
all I have to say is bidets are the weirdest thing in the history of inventions.
Why?
They
make so
one.
much sense.
No, they don't. You're spraying cold water on your asshole.
You're
That's just not
your asshole. It's hygienic.
Yeah, I understand the approach of it, but I feel like in execution it's kind of meh. At best.
Why? I mean, I'd have one if I fucking could. They're great.
I don't know. I just feel like it's more thorough with toilet paper. Like you're just spraying with like some sub pressure.
But
water
you use
up
toilet
there.
paper first, and then you clean it off with water after on the bidet.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we ought to wrap it up. Any last thoughts? No. All right.
Yeah.
Well. Thanks everybody for listening. Let's just say that you can email me or Andersen at dopelives@gmail.com. My Twitter, personally, is dopefish_lives.
Mine is
Andersen?
at SirAndersen1. How about you, Flippin? Where can people find you?
Mine, you can find me, you can actually email me, FlippinKamikaze, all one word, at gmail.com. I'm also on
first
Twitter.
Just giving out his email.
Yeah, I'm also on Twitter at FlipKami@dope.
Right.
And yeah, that's it.
Links to all this will be in the description as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, our planned guest is a vegan, so we'll have a lot of interesting things to talk with Spooky about.
Ooh, I didn't know Spooky was a vegan. Interesting.
You didn't?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
That's like his main feature. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, and
Thanks
goodbye.
for tuning in.
Bye, guys.
Bye.